in a grimy prison with other children, none of them knowing where they were or why they'd been taken. One day, a rough-looking man named Pierre walked in, pointed at him, and said he was coming with him. Pierre wasn't the kind of guy you'd trust with your lunch money, let alone your life. He'd do anything for a profit. The boy had been living quietly with his mother, just the two of them, until Pierre tore him away to be his slave. Pierre handed him over to an injured woman and barked an order to clean him up. As she scrubbed him down, he stared at the water, wondering what terrible fate awaited him. Soon he was presented to a wealthy woman who inspected him like she was shopping for a new handbag. "We'll see how he does," she said dismissively. Pierre grinned and assured her he was a good boy who wouldn't cause trouble, then leaned down to whisper in the boy's ear that this lady was a prized customer, so he'd better behave. And just like that, the boy found himself working at a place called Pub Wickney. It wasn't exactly a dream job. The customers enjoyed tormenting him for sport, and even the smallest mistake earned him a beating so brutal he could barely stand afterward. Pierre, never one to miss a chance for cruelty, would sometimes beat him just because it was a slow day. Despite the relentless abuse, the boy refused to break. He gritted his teeth and kept going, clinging to the hope that one day he'd escape. After a decade of misery, he finally decided he couldn't endure another minute in that hellhole. So, he came up with a plan. Charm his way out. He started flattering the customers, using his wit and charisma to turn them into unwitting accomplices. One night, a woman confessed how much she wished she could take him away. He grabbed her hand, looked her in the eye, and whispered, "You're the only light in this miserable place." She melted like butter on hot toast, hugging him and promising she couldn't live without him. Others fell for his act too, offering to help him escape. They sent carriages to whisk him away, hired mercenaries to sneak him out, and even tried bribing Pierre with absurd amounts of money. But Pierre, being the greedy sadist he was, refused every offer. "He's too valuable," he'd say, laughing like a man who'd just won the lottery. Every escape attempt failed. Those who tried to steal him away ended up in trouble with the law, and Pierre always dragged him back, each time finding new, inventive ways to punish him. The boy endured burns, cuts, and unimaginable pain, yet somehow survived it all. Pierre seemed to think the boy was invincible, but the boy had other ideas. He wasn't going to let Pierre win. "I'll escape," he thought, staring into the distance with quiet determination. "Even if it's the last thing I do." 1 year later, at Laspeten Manor, the day was bright, and the gardens were alive with blooming flowers. Asha stood in the kitchen when a chef asked her where she had stashed the frozen quillies. She quickly replied they were on the right side of the second shelf in the third freezer, and even stopped him before he grabbed the wrong sack. Just as she was about to return to her work, the kitchen bell rang. A senior chef reminded her that Lord Benjamin needed to try the appetizer made with ice quillies. Apparently, if he didn't, Dawson would be in a mood. Asha was tasked with ensuring he tasted it, so she wasted no time heading to his room. At the door, she bowed to the guard before entering. Inside, she opened the dish for Lord Benjamin to inspect and politely asked if he was hungry. He said no, but invited her in anyway. As she placed the dish down, she greeted him again, but he didn't respond. Thinking he might not be fully awake, she decided to wait quietly until he finished reading his book. When he noticed her standing so stiffly, he teased her, asking if she was trying to upset him. Asha froze, completely baffled, until he burst out laughing and admitted it was a line from a romance novel he wanted to test on her. Her confused look only made him laugh harder, and he asked if his delivery was that bad. Before she could answer, he grinned and said the book was excellent, then asked if she wanted to borrow it sometime. Asha politely declined, saying she was fine, but then he asked if she had finished the book he had recommended earlier. She admitted she hadn't, explaining she was a slow reader and didn't feel confident about tackling such a big book. Lord Benjamin dismissed her concerns with a smile, saying that making it even halfway through was impressive, especially since she had so much on her plate. Asha confessed she found the story captivating and the words easy to understand, but admitted she needed more time. He seemed pleased and promised to lend her another adventure story soon, which surprised her. She thanked him sincerely, marveling at how much had changed in just 6 months. When Asha had first arrived as a maid, she was inexperienced and clumsy, stumbling through her duties. But with Lord Benjamin's guidance, she adjusted quickly. She had also been completely illiterate back then, but he had taken the time to teach her to read and write. Now, reading felt like unlocking a new world with every book, and she couldn't get enough of it. Lord Benjamin's kindness amazed her. He even lent her books to fuel her newfound love for reading. She silently hoped all his recommendations would be as thrilling as The Dragon and the 5 Warriors. On her way back to the kitchen, Asha ran into Tina, who told her that Miss Leanne wanted to see her in her office. Asha felt a knot in her stomach. Miss Leanne, the housekeeper, had a reputation for her sharp tongue and harsh punishments. Just last month, she docked a maid's wages for a week over a broken plate, and another time, she forced a maid to list all her mistakes in front of the entire household. As Asha stood outside the office, she prayed silently to make it through unscathed. When Miss Leanne finally spoke, she reminded Asha to always enter her office properly and with respect. Asha apologized immediately, promising to do better. Ms. Leanne then asked if Asha lived with her mother. Asha explained that her mother was sick and staying in the hospital. The next question caught her off guard. Did she have plans to marry? Asha hesitated but answered honestly, saying she wasn't sure. Her only priority was helping her mother recover. Ms. Leanne then got to the point. She had a job for Asha. It was simple, she claimed. Deliver a package to Pub Wickney. Asha, confused by the lack of details, asked for more information, but Miss Leanne brushed her off, urging her to decide quickly. Plenty of other maids would jump at this opportunity, she warned. When Miss Leanne mentioned the job came with extra pay and help toward her mother's medical bills, Asha agreed, though uneasily. Before sending her off, Miss Leanne gave strict instructions. Don't open the package, don't talk about it, and understand that her life depended on keeping quiet. With those ominous words ringing in her ears, Asha climbed into the waiting carriage. The driver was silent the entire ride, not even glancing her way. When they arrived, Asha stepped out, thanked him awkwardly despite his indifference, and steeled herself. "You've got this," she whispered, clutching the package. As she approached Pub Wickney, loud voices boomed from inside. "Come on in. Only 1,000 kwat per hour, beautiful and handsome slaves to serve you tonight." The place looked far worse than Asha had imagined, filthy, loud, and filled with an unsettling energy. Before she could process her disgust, a man approached her, smirking. "Hey there, cutie. What are you doing out here all alone?" Another man chimed in. "Come inside. We'll show you a good time." Asha's heart raced as she dodged their advances and hurried inside, clutching the package like it was a lifeline. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of fear and regret. What have I gotten myself into? She wondered. As she pushed open the heavy door and stepped into Pub Wickney, the scent of alcohol and desperation hitting her like a wave. Inside the dimly lit room, Leo, chained and battered, heard a faint noise from across the space. His eyes darted toward the sound, but he saw nothing. He sighed, chalking it up to his imagination playing tricks on him again. Time had become a blur, and he had long stopped keeping track of how long he'd been locked away. A year ago, he remembered refusing food when a guard had brought it. The guard had sneered, reminding him that food wasn't cheap and forcing it into his mouth when he resisted. Leo, seething, had complained about being treated like a slave. The guard just laughed and spat. "You're just like your mother. What a tragedy she was. Too bad for the soldier who killed her." That memory burned in his mind as Leo stretched, his stomach gnawing with hunger. The pain of his loss mixed with the ache of his body. But before he could sink deeper into thought, the same guard returned, taunting him again about dinner. This time, Leo snapped. He grabbed the guard by the mouth and with unexplainable strength tore him apart. When the commotion brought more guards, Leo fought them barehanded, his strength growing with each blow. They tried to subdue him, but he easily overpowered them. Panic set in and the remaining guards fled to summon Pierre. That was the day Leo discovered he wasn't ordinary. He was something else entirely. Pierre eventually arrived, barking orders to bring Leo down. The guards attacked relentlessly, and Leo tore through them like paper. It took a blow to his back to finally drop him. Pierre, furious but intrigued, ordered the guards to inject him with curtia. The moment the needle pierced his skin, a searing pain erupted through his body, burning like fire. When Leo woke, his body felt like it had been torn apart and stitched back together. Pierre stood nearby, smirking. "When did you get so strong, boy?" he sneered. "Don't worry, I'll make good use of you. The fighting ring needs someone like you." His mocking words stung as he ordered Leo to be locked away, ensuring he'd never escape. Leo, lying in chains, wished for it all to end. His heart ached, and his mind swirled with anger and despair. Just then, he heard a soft voice call out, breaking the silence. Startled, he looked toward the door. Asha stood there, clutching a package, her wide eyes scanning the room. "Is anyone here?" she asked hesitantly. For a moment, Leo wondered if she was real or just another cruel trick of his mind. 20 minutes earlier, Asha stood outside the door, telling herself to stay calm and stop overthinking. When she finally opened it, the scene inside made her freeze in shock. The chaos and cruelty were worse than anything she'd imagined. Someone shoved her from behind, snapping her out of it, and grumbled about blocking the entrance. She approached the bartender and stated her purpose. She was from Count Laspiten's estate to deliver something to the owner. The bartender nodded, opened a door, and gestured for her to follow. He led her through a narrow alley to another door, where he informed someone inside that the package had arrived. A massive man appeared and told her to follow him. As they walked, she couldn't help but notice how intimidating he looked, though she told herself not to let it show. The man eventually announced her arrival. A cheerful voice welcomed them, and Asha quickly introduced herself as a maid from Laspiten Manor, bowing politely. The man, Mr. Pierre, smirked at her nervousness and reassured her they didn't harm people who helped them. He dismissed the large man and offered her tea, boasting about its quality, though he joked it might not match what she was used to at the manor. Asha declined politely, saying she couldn't stay long, and handed over the package. Pierre opened it, and she tried to keep her face neutral as she saw it was packed with gold. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't realized she'd been carrying such a fortune. She reminded herself to keep calm, though her mind was racing with questions about what she had just delivered. Pierre read the letter, which mentioned an even larger payment next time, then handed Asha a gift. She thanked him, asked to leave, and he wished her a pleasant evening, adding he looked forward to working with her again. She quickly left, relieved it was over. Confused by the winding paths, she took a wrong turn and entered a dark room. The smell hit her first, then the sight of dead animals scattered on the floor. She froze, but a faint sound of breathing drew her attention. She spotted a figure and realized it was a person. Leo sat bleeding on the ground. She moved toward him, but he threatened her to stay back. She calmly told him she wanted to help. Seeing how severe his injuries were, she knew he wouldn't survive without immediate aid. Ignoring her mother's warning to never use her power, she touched him, her hands glowing faintly as his wounds began to heal. Leo stared at her, stunned as his strength returned. He weakly asked who she was. Before she could respond, a guard's voice boomed from outside, ordering her to leave immediately. Asha overheard 2 guards outside the dark room. One wondered if she might be inside, but the other dismissed it, saying they had more important things to do, like catching monsters. She held her breath, trembling at how close they were. Once they left, she glanced back at the man. She didn't know his story, but couldn't shake the thought of leaving him there to suffer. Introducing herself as Asha, she promised to return, and as she ran out, he softly called her name before falling asleep. She stumbled in the street, her knees scraping the ground. The glowing lights of the night butterfly district seemed brighter, like a cruel trap for the desperate. The air was heavy with a sweet scent that lured people into bargaining their lives away. Around her, animals lay dying, slaves moaned, and people shouted over deals. She thought about how powerless people like her were, always used and discarded. Tears welled up as she realized everything she had endured had led her here. Stopping by a river, she washed her face, telling herself she couldn't go home looking like this. She thought of her mother and the worry that would surely fill her face. At the hospital late that night, Annie met her at the door, shocked to see her bruised face and bloody knees. She asked if Asha had walked all the way there, but Asha just greeted her and went straight inside, collapsing onto a bed. Annie sighed, watching her. Asha never stopped. She worked tirelessly at the manor, came to the hospital on weekends, and cared for her mother without a break. Annie couldn't decide if that was admirable or plain reckless. Covering Asha with a blanket, she wished her a quiet night. Back at the manor a few days later, Asha's focus wavered. The chef barked at her to hurry with the salt, but her hands were slow as she peeled potatoes. She couldn't stop thinking about the man in the dark room. Lost in thought, she cut her hand. Blood dripped onto the counter, and the chef yelled for her to leave and take care of it. She nodded, muttering an apology as she stepped out. She thought about how exhausted she was and imagined Annie's sharp words if she found out Asha still wasn't resting properly. Asha struggled to find the first aid kit, knowing she still had laundry duty later. She grabbed it, patched up her hand quickly, and sighed, already dreading how much it would hurt when she dipped it in water. Blaming herself for being careless, she pushed through and returned to the kitchen to prepare spicy dishes. The chef noticed her persistence and marveled at how stubborn she was, continuing to work despite the pain. At the end of the day, she collapsed on her bed, exhausted. Her hand throbbed, but her mind kept drifting to the man with violet eyes. She checked her bag and counted 12 pills, debating whether to use some now or save them for him. Infection crossed her mind, but before she could decide, a knock came at the door. Someone informed her that Lord Benjamin wanted to see her immediately. She groaned, but answered that she was on her way. When she arrived at his room, she announced herself and he invited her in, apologizing for calling so late. He explained he'd skipped lunch and was now starving, asking if she could make him a quick snack. She agreed and was about to leave when he stopped her. His sharp eyes landed on her hand, wrapped clumsily in a towel. He asked what happened, and she mumbled something about a potato-peeling mishap. He raised an eyebrow and asked why she hadn't applied proper ointment. She admitted she couldn't find any. His expression darkened as he unwrapped the makeshift bandage to check the wound. Seeing the red, swollen cut, his jaw tightened. "This is worse than just a scratch," he said, his tone sharp. Asha winced, more at his anger than the pain. She stammered that she'd take care of it later, but he shook his head. "Stay here," he ordered, walking to his cabinet to grab his own medical supplies. As he treated her wound with careful hands, he muttered, "You're not a machine, Asha. Take care of yourself." She tried to protest, but he silenced her with a stern look. "If you break, who's going to peel my potatoes?" he added with a smirk, making her laugh despite herself. Asha sat down as Lord Benjamin treated her hand, offering her ointment and telling her to use it until her wound healed. She hesitated, feeling the salve was too valuable, but he insisted it wasn't up for discussion. He reminded her to take care of herself and not to push too hard, urging her to rest for the day. Despite her protests, he assured her it was fine and that he'd already informed the staff. When she tried to argue, he joked about confiscating her potatoes if she worked again, causing her to smile. She thanked him and promised not to forget his kindness. That night, lying in bed, she stared at the salve, still in disbelief over his treatment of her. She thought about his words, "Don't get hurt again," and couldn't help but smile, deciding maybe it was time to take a break from the potatoes. The next day, Asha stayed busy, waiting for Miss Leanne to call for her, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the night before, leaving her with a feeling she couldn't quite explain. As she worked, she noticed a cat attacking a bird. She chased the cat away, scooping up the bird to find it badly hurt. She took it inside, remembering how her powers could heal small injuries but not serious wounds. After a moment of hesitation, she healed the bird, laughing as it hopped onto her, tickling her hand. She told it to go home before dark and released it, feeling a small sense of joy before returning to her tasks. Later, Miss Leanne assigned her to deliver something to the butterfly again. Asha felt a strange excitement, and Tina noticed her mood, joking that it must be because she had found a man. Asha simply smiled and checked her bag, making sure she had everything, including the medicine, before running off. At the butterfly, the man there confirmed everything was in order and handed her an envelope, wishing her well. She thanked him and left quickly, glad to be alone. She made her way to the room where the man was kept, following the smell of blood to track it down. When she opened the door, she found him in even worse condition. She rushed to his side, asking if he was in pain and if they had hurt him again. The room was darker than before, and she could see how bad his injuries were. She apologized for taking so long and told him she wanted to remove the gag so he could speak. He asked how she had gotten in again, urging her to leave, but she refused, insisting she couldn't leave him like this. She promised to treat his wounds, warning him that it would hurt. But he tried to yell at her to stop. Asha's hand began to glow as she touched his wounds, healing them little by little. The room smelled sweet and sour, and she could tell by his hazy eyes and soft groans that he had been drugged with cruelty, a magical sedative usually used for tranquilizing monsters. While not entirely illegal, it was strictly forbidden to use it on humans. Asha knew that the wealthy sometimes took small doses for pleasure, but overuse had dangerous side effects, even fatal ones. She thought about how many runaway slaves ended up in the hospital from cruelty overdoses, with nothing anyone could do to help them. He groaned in pain and begged her to stop, but she told him to hang on, promising she was almost done. As she continued, memories of her mother flooded her mind. She recalled trying to heal her, telling her to hold on just a little longer, and promising she could cure her with more time. But her mother had asked her to stop, saying she had done enough. Asha had cried, insisting that she could still help, and now, with tears streaming down her face, she continued healing him, telling herself she couldn't give up. He looked at her, bewildered, and asked who she was and why she was helping him. When she finished, she told him the first round of treatment was done and asked if she could apply some ointment to prevent scars. She reassured him it wasn't dangerous, just something to help with the pain. He looked at her suspiciously, but she promised him it had no smell, worked fast, and would ease the pain. He smiled at her and said he trusted her, calling her master. As she carefully applied the ointment, she asked his name. Lee, he replied, and she said it was a nice name. He then noticed her injured hand and asked what had happened. She explained that she'd hurt herself while working, laughing lightly and calling herself a bit clumsy. He asked what kind of work she did, and she told him she was just a maid at Luspatin Manor. Lee stared at her, and she wondered why he was looking at her so intently. Before Asha could ask Lee anything, she heard footsteps approaching. Realizing she needed to leave, she thought about sneaking away quietly, but Lee begged her not to go. He called her master, tears streaming down his face, and pleaded with her not to leave him, asking her to help him or even end his life rather than leaving him there. Asha felt deep pity for him, but told him she had to go, promising to return and check on his wounds. His cries grew louder as she left the room. Later, after completing her task, Ms. Leanne rewarded her with an extra day off. Even though she was supposed to rest, Asha couldn't stop thinking about Lee. She thought about how he had a name, something many runaway slaves often lost along with their sense of identity. She reflected on the effects of cruelty, how it turned people into hollow shells with no will of their own. Those addicted to it were used and discarded like puppets. Yet Lee still expressed his emotions and pain, which gave her hope that he wasn't entirely lost. She also wondered why he had called her master. She thought it was strange since she was just a slave herself. Then she remembered something odd she had seen in Mr. Pierre's office, the key hidden in one of his drawers. She wondered if it was the key to Lee's handcuffs. For a moment, the thought of using it crossed her mind, but she quickly dismissed it, scolding herself for even considering it. She felt conflicted, unsure of what she could do if she saved him, and guilty for wanting to help him only to ease her own conscience. When she returned to work, Miss Sal asked about her health, as Miss Leanne had told everyone she had been unwell. Asha reassured her that she was fine. Miss Sal then told her she had baked cookies for Lord Benjamin, and there were 2 left over for her. She added that Asha needed to eat well to keep up her energy since she was still growing. Asha appreciated the gesture, and the cookies looked delicious. While enjoying the moment, the other chefs stood nervously nearby. Miss Sal turned to them and encouraged them not to be shy. They all presented small gifts they had prepared for Asha. She thanked them, feeling touched by their kindness, and they expressed hopes of improving their work and skills. Just then, Tina ran into the room shouting Asha's name. She asked what was wrong, and Tina quickly told her there was bad news. Asha asked what it was, and Tina explained that Miss Liane had summoned her again. Asha thought to herself that she had only just returned from the butterfly. Smiling, she joked with Tina, saying she thought something truly terrible had happened. Tina, looking worried, asked what could be worse than this. She grabbed Asha's hand and asked her to promise to tell her if anything was wrong. Asha laughed and reassured her that she would, appreciating the concern. As they walked with Miss Liane, she reminded Asha to watch her manners. Miss Liane warned her that even the smallest mistake could cost her more than just her job. She then asked why Lord Jaden had requested her. Asha thought about how notorious he was among the slaves. Rumors said he had committed every crime except murder. She wondered why someone like him would want her. Miss Liane told her it wasn't her place to question and reminded her that as a slave, her job was to stay in her place and hold her tongue, no matter what happened. When they entered the room, Lord Jaden seemed surprised. He looked at Asha and asked if she was the one sent for his errand. Miss Liane excused herself from the room, leaving Asha behind. Asha immediately noticed the familiar smell of drugs lingering in the air. It reminded her of something magical. He asked her to come closer, tapping the bed for her to approach. Asha hesitated but politely introduced herself as Asha and explained that she worked in the kitchen. She asked if he needed anything. The smell became stronger, making it hard to ignore. She recognized it as the scent of a magic potion. He told her not to be afraid and explained that he just wanted to meet the person who had been helping him with such an important task. He confirmed her name and then brought out the gift she had received from Mr. Pierre, asking if she knew what it was. She quickly responded that she didn't know anything about what she delivered to the night butterfly, saying she only did as she was instructed. He clarified that he wasn't talking about the deliveries, but about the card she had received. A wave of panic washed over her, realizing how bad the situation was. She hadn't expected him to be involved. He motioned for her to come closer, and when she did, he assured her there was no need to be scared. He pointed to the card and said it was the same thing she always brought for him. He poured some liquor onto the card, explaining how valuable it was and how much joy it brought him. Asha was shocked, wondering what she had done. She blamed her greed for leading her to take this job, recalling the promises she had made to herself before accepting it. He mentioned that Ms. Liane knew exactly what he liked and asked how she had been chosen for the task. He speculated that Miss Liane might have known he would want to meet her. Asha began to feel a deep sense of fear, as she realized he wasn't thinking clearly. She thought about ways to escape, but before she could make a move, he grabbed her hand. He said he had heard she was the one who delivered Lord Benjamin's breakfast every morning, and sarcastically remarked on how amusing it was that brothers could share the same taste. She tried to pull away, but he held on firmly. He began insulting his brother, calling him a lowlife who always tried to take what was his. He accused Benjamin of trying to strip him of everything he valued, including his honor, position, and their parents' trust. He claimed that she, like everyone else, had fallen for Benjamin's tricks. He grew angrier, accusing her of being like other girls who preferred his brother over him. His anger escalated, and he forced himself on her. Asha cried, denying his accusations about Benjamin, but her protests only seemed to fuel his rage. He raised his hand to hit her. Just then, there was a knock on the door. It was Miss Liane. She asked what was happening and informed him that his lordship wished to see him. He pushed Asha away, muttering that the fun was just starting. He told Miss Liane to let his lordship know he was getting dressed and would be there soon. He also asked her to fetch some strong cologne to mask the smell of the potion. Asha wept as she tried to pull herself together. Liane told her to go to the hospital and explained that when Lord Jaden was under the influence of the potion, he would forget everything that happened the next day. She also reminded Asha of her position as a slave and told her to prepare for the next task. Asha's mind flooded with memories of her past. She remembered all the suffering she had endured since she began working for nobles as a young child. She recalled being wrongly accused, beaten for no reason, and forced to eat scraps. She thought about the two brothers who had beaten her just because she looked at them. She remembered countless instances where she had been treated as less than human, all while enduring it to earn money for her mother's medicine. The only people who could provide the money she needed were the nobles, and they never saw any reason to treat her with kindness. She suddenly snapped out of her thoughts and realized it was time to get back to work. As she stood up, the idea of doing some exercises to clear her mind crossed her thoughts. The thought of quitting lingered, but she couldn't stop thinking about Lee and what would happen to him if she left. Asha couldn't bring herself to turn her back on him. She knew she had to return to Pub Wickney. The next day at the manor, she approached Miss Leanne and told her she'd like to take the vacation she had saved up. Miss Leanne told her she could take a week off after finishing her current task, and Asha thanked her. In the kitchen, Tina noticed the bruises on Asha's face and shouted, asking what had happened. Asha quickly replied that she had fallen down the stairs. Tina expressed concern, asking how bad the fall was for her face to look like that. She grabbed Asha and insisted on taking some of her work to help her avoid straining herself. Miss Sal joined the conversation, telling Asha she had been working too hard. The head of the kitchen also chimed in, promising to be lenient and not let her overwork. Two kids from the kitchen came to Asha and told her they had grown up enough to handle their work, so she didn't need to help them anymore. They were big enough to take on her chores. Asha was touched by their affection and thanked them. In her mind, she thought about how she almost forgot how many precious people surrounded her. Later that night at the Night Butterfly, the big soldier escorted her to Mr. Pierre's office, telling her he would be back in a minute. As soon as the guard left, she hurried to search for the key she had seen Pierre hide in his drawer. She found the key and also an envelope. She wondered what it was, but quickly put it aside as Mr. Pierre walked in. He apologized for being late, saying he had a business meeting. She told him she wasn't angry, and he asked to see the box. She presented it to him, and he seemed satisfied. He handed her the same pack as before, and she bowed, thanking him and preparing to leave. As she walked out, she went through the letter she had found in the drawer. Her heart sank as she realized what it said. The letter stated that Asha was nothing but a slave, and that Mr. Pierre was free to use her as he wished. It also said that if she ever stepped out of line, he was welcome to dispose of her, even kill her if needed, as he could always replace her. Asha felt devastated, realizing that when Ms. Leanne had promised to pay for her mother's bills, it wasn't out of kindness. She had only been using her as a pawn. She called herself an idiot for feeling grateful. At least today's visit had worked out well because she had found the key. She thought the key must be for Lee's handcuffs, since it even had a tag labeled Slave 13. She silently thanked Lord Benjamin for teaching her how to read. Rushing to Lee, she found him badly injured and asked how long he had been in this state. Without wasting time, she immediately began to work on healing him. In her mind, she knew they didn't have much time. Mr. Pierre would realize the key was missing soon. She showed Lee the key and told him they needed to get out of there. He was shocked and asked how she had gotten the key. She managed to unlock the first handcuff and felt relieved when it worked. Moving on to the second, she freed him, but he collapsed. She urged him to take her hand. Meanwhile, Mr. Pierre had already discovered the key was gone. He muttered that this was why slaves couldn't be trusted. The big guard asked if he should bring Asha back. Mr. Pierre responded coldly, saying no, they should just kill her. The chains moved through the air and latched back onto Lee. He told Asha to leave, insisting he would be fine and that she should go. She was confused, unsure of what to do, when suddenly she remembered a similar situation. They hadn't been able to free a slave who had escaped because the doctor had explained that the chains were meant for monsters and couldn't be removed by normal means. Determined to help him, she told him to hold on, promising to find a way. Quickly, she started making a potion to break the curse. She added the medicine given to her by Lord Benjamin and crushed some pills into the mix. Ironically, The chains meant for monsters could be loosened by covering them with a scent that beasts couldn't stand. She poured the mixture onto the chains. He yelled at her, asking what she was doing and telling her to leave. But Asha refused, reminding him of her promise to save him and insisting they had to get out alive. Just then, the guards burst into the room. One of them remarked that he knew she would be there. They ordered each other to grab her and kill her before she could do anything. Asha kept trying to free Lee, ignoring the danger. As the guards closed in, the chains suddenly snapped. Lee immediately sprang into action, taking down the guards with ease. Asha stood there, shocked, watching him. The man who had begged her to save him was now effortlessly taking down the guards. She felt a chill of fear as she realized how dangerous he seemed. Lee noticed her fear and tried to calm her, saying he only wanted to protect her. He called her master again, and Asha noticed he was shaking. When she moved closer, she saw tears in his eyes. She thought to herself that this was a man who could kill without hesitation, yet he was terrified of someone else's touch. He asked her if she didn't want him anymore. Before she could answer, fire suddenly spread through the room, set off by the monsters. Lee became worried that things were getting too dangerous for her. Asha reminded him of her promise. They were both going to get out alive. The fire intensified, spreading quickly. The guards tried to put it out, but the monsters had started escaping and fighting back. The commotion from below alarmed the party upstairs. Chaos erupted as the monsters broke free, attacking anyone in sight. Amidst the madness, Asha carried Lee on her shoulder, realizing he was burning up with fever. She told him they were almost out when suddenly a monster appeared in front of them, roaring loudly. She screamed in fear, waking Lee from his daze. He immediately killed the monster, blocking their path. He turned to check on her, but before she could answer, another monster bit her leg. Without hesitation, Lee killed it too. Seeing the fire spreading and the monsters closing in, Lee realized they had to act fast or they would both die. He told her to leave, urging her to run while he distracted the monsters. He reminded her that staying would mean certain death for both of them. Asha hesitated, but finally agreed, promising to go find help. Meanwhile, 2 knights were walking back home after their shift. Percent. The junior knight remarked that he thought they'd be in a knife fight by now. The senior knight chuckled and told him it had barely been 10 minutes since the shift started. He explained that trouble usually brewed around midnight, especially near a pub called Wickney, which was popular with troublemakers and dangerous folk. He warned the younger knight that even most knights avoided that area because of how unsafe it was. The junior knight asked if it wasn't their duty to stop such people. The senior knight sighed and said it wasn't worth risking his life over. He added that if the younger knight wasn't careful, he'd end up dead young. The junior knight argued that knights were supposed to protect the system, but the senior knight knocked him on the head, telling him to think about his life first. As they walked, they saw her running toward them. The senior knight stopped her and asked what was going on. She hurriedly told him her friend was in trouble and needed help. He asked her to calm down and explain, but she insisted there was no time, saying the monsters had escaped. He quickly told the junior knight to ring the alarm and call for backup while he would handle the situation. As the younger knight ran off, he couldn't help but think how ironic it was that the senior knight who had just warned him about being reckless was now rushing into danger like a hero. Back at the scene, people were gossiping about the fire, speculating on what had happened. Some murmured that everyone inside must have turned to ash, while others were already planning to loot any jewels that might be left behind. When she and the knight arrived, they found the place engulfed in flames. She tried to run into the fire, shouting for Lee, but the knight grabbed her and said she would die if she went in. Some men brought buckets of water to prevent the fire from spreading to nearby buildings. She grabbed one of the buckets and poured the water over herself before running into the flames. The knight tried to stop her, but she was too fast. Realizing there was no other choice, he poured water on himself and followed her. Inside, he found her trying to wake Lee, who was pinned under a block. She struggled to lift it, insisting she would get him out. The knight scolded her for being reckless, but then offered to help. he told her to pull Lee out as soon as he lifted the block. Together, they managed to free him. The knight commended her effort and said he would carry Lee. As they ran out, the fire grew fiercer, and the building started to collapse. Once outside, they collapsed on the ground, and the knight remarked how close they had come to dying. She immediately checked on Lee, asking if he was okay. The knight suggested they get a doctor, but then noticed the slave mark on Lee's body. He hesitated, explaining that, according to imperial law, helping a runaway slave could lead to punishment for interfering with private property. She grabbed his hand and begged him to help, tears streaming down her face. Touched by her desperation, he thought about how much he hated getting involved in these situations, but also about how his wife would scold him for not helping. After a moment, he agreed, but warned her that no hospital would treat a runaway slave. She reassured him that she knew a place they could go. When they arrived at the doctor's, the man was shocked by Lee's condition and asked what had happened. The knight told him to focus on treating Lee first. She asked if Lee would survive, and the doctor replied that only time would tell. They quickly got him onto a bed, hoping for the best. Lee lay on the bed, clearly in pain, while she sat beside him, feeling bitter about his condition. The doctor and Annie were also in the room. Annie suggested she get her leg treated first and then come back to look after Lee. The doctor agreed, saying he would stay with Lee in the meantime. She nodded and left, but as Annie began stitching her wound, she cried out in pain. Annie told her to bear with it because the wound was deep. Meanwhile, the doctor finished bandaging Lee, saying he had done everything he could, and now they could only watch over him. Later that night, she lay in the bed next to his, watching him for a while to make sure he was still alive. She tiptoed over to his bed, resting her head on his chest to listen for his heartbeat. It was faint, but she thanked God he was alive. She thought about how she had used her powers to save animals and people before, but never like this, never so recklessly. She didn't know why, but she felt compelled to help him. She used her power again, asking him to be strong and live. Days passed, and she spent her vacation helping him recover. One day, she entered the room to find him sitting up. Surprised, she ran to him, asking if he was awake and if he could see her, considering the extent of his burns. When he looked at her in an odd way, she asked if he didn't recognize her. He responded by saying she had saved him. He then asked about Mr. Pierre and his men. She told him they were either dead or missing. He nodded but said there was one good thing, being able to see her again. He placed her hand on his face, but she quickly pulled it away, asking what he was doing. He asked if he was useless to her now because of his injuries. She reassured him that he wasn't, and told him not to think like that anymore. She reminded him that the people who had tormented him were gone, and there was no need for him to call her master. She told him again that she was just an ordinary maid. He asked if it bothered her when he called her master. She said it wasn't that, and he said he would keep calling her master because he liked being hers. She thought to herself that they could work on that later. For now, she was just happy he was awake. She asked if it hurt when he pressed her hand against his face, and he replied that it didn't. In fact, her hand felt like medicine to him. Back at the manor, work was in full swing, and everyone was busy. The senior chef was giving out instructions, and amid the bustling day, she began humming a song as she peeled potatoes, moving to the rhythm. Everyone stopped and smiled at her. Miss Sal called out, and she responded. Miss Sal asked if something good had happened, but she simply replied that it was nothing. Miss Sal couldn't help but think there was something different about her. She had a hunch it might be a man. She believed Asha had found a young man, while both Lord Benjamin and Lee missed her dearly. Later, she visited Lord Benjamin, and he asked if she had been busy because he hardly saw her anymore. She apologized, and he mentioned that she had lost weight since the last time he saw her. He asked if she was tired, but she assured him she was fine. He then asked about her hand, and she said it was okay since she got his treatment. Her thoughts, however, drifted to Lee. She wondered if his bandages had been changed, and how much pain he must still be in, since his wounds weren't healed yet. Lord Benjamin asked about the book he had given her, and she told him that thanks to him, she had become an avid reader. But once again, her mind wandered back to Lee, imagining him sitting in the hospital room all alone. He asked if she had eaten, and she said yes, though in her mind she thought that Lee needed food more than she did. He was surprised by her response and the way she spoke to him, asking if she was mad at him. She quickly said no, but he pointed out that she wasn't even looking at him. She was startled, realizing her distraction had made her forget her manners. He said he thought they were friends, and she reassured him she wasn't upset with him. Just then, Lord Jaden barged into the room, and Benjamin's expression immediately changed. Jaden noticed and asked if Benjamin wasn't happy to see him. Benjamin wondered what Jaden wanted from him this time. Although they were brothers, they never got along and despised each other. Jaden lived a carefree life, indulging in pleasures and avoiding serious responsibilities. Benjamin, on the other hand, worked hard, studied, trained, and refined his ways as a nobleman. But because Jaden was the eldest, his opinions held more weight in the family, and their father entrusted everything to him. This imbalance frustrated Benjamin, who tried to outshine his brother in every way. But Jaden, instead of being proud, had developed an inferiority complex. One day, Benjamin rode into the village on horseback, and the people cheered for him. He thanked them for their warm welcome, and they whispered among themselves that he was nothing like Jaden, who wouldn't even acknowledge them. Jaden approached the girl and made a remark about how close Benjamin seemed to be with her. Benjamin immediately stood up and positioned himself between them, demanding to know why Jaden had barged into his room. Jaden laughed and teased his brother, asking if he was angry because of the maid. Her mind drifted to the time she had been in Jaden's room. He had once said they both seemed to have the same taste in women, mentioning that he and the maid shared a connection, and that she had been trembling at the sight of him. Benjamin asked what he had done to her, and Jaden responded that she had gotten on his nerves, so he taught her a lesson. She began to cry, thinking she would never be able to look Benjamin in the eye again. She turned her face away, but then found herself looking straight at him, feeling ashamed. She hated her helplessness and hated that he now knew what had happened. Out of nowhere, Benjamin landed a blow on Jaden. Jaden was shocked, thinking to himself that Benjamin had never hit him before, no matter what he had done. She was equally shocked. Benjamin walked closer to his brother and told him that he had tolerated his despicable behavior for long enough. He said Jaden had abused their father's authority, ruining his own life, which was none of his concern. But now Jaden was ruining the lives of others, and that was unacceptable. Jaden accused him of being selfish and hiding his true nature. He claimed Benjamin had everything: physique, skill, intelligence, and had even taken over some of their father's duties. Jaden said Benjamin was trying to take the position of heir, but that it was his by birthright. He added that no matter how much Benjamin screamed or fought, it wouldn't make a difference. Benjamin looked at him with pity and threw him toward the guards, ordering them to take him out. Jaden yelled back that Benjamin could call him whatever he wanted, but everything he desired would always belong to him, including the maid. Hearing this, Benjamin grabbed him by the throat. Prince Benjamin tells Jaden that he does not care about him, and that whatever he does with himself is none of his concern. Jaden's face twists with fury as he charges toward him, demanding to know how he dares to speak to him like that. Before he can get any closer, a hand grabs his wrist and twists it, stopping him in his tracks. A voice asks if he thinks their father would be happy to hear about the riot and mayhem he is causing. If he truly believes his position as heir is at risk, does he really believe that? A whisper follows, cold and sharp, telling him that if his spot had truly been wanted, he would have been dead already in the most miserable way. No one would have known or cared because that would have brought peace to their father, to him, and to the whole house. Neither he nor the maid deserves the treatment they receive from him. He is pushed away, his balance faltering, as the voice tells him that if he wishes to keep his position, he should put his head down. A male servant enters the room with the butler and Miss Leanne, reporting that they have been brought as instructed. Orders are given for Jaden to be taken out of the room. The butler nags that he must have been drunk again. Miss Leanne tells them to take him quickly to his bed, As he is dragged away, he swears on his brother and promises to get him. After the room clears, the male servant admits that he will clean the mess, but he is told to leave it and go. He obeys immediately. Benjamin notices that Asha has already started cleaning. She is picking up the broken pieces of a plate. He calls her name and hugs her from behind, telling her to stop hurting herself, saying that it is exhausting and suffocating. He calls himself an idiot for not knowing what his brother has put her through. His mind drifts back. Every time he sees her, he feels a deep pity for her. She is always working hard, pushing herself to the point of exhaustion. At first, he has no interest in her, but then he starts noticing things. She always looks tired in the morning. Her eyes are always red and her hands are dry and cracked. He remembers when he first notices the embroidery on her bonnet. His eyes start taking in every small detail about her. One day, she brings him tea and warns him to be careful because it is hot. He takes that moment to ask about the stitches on her bonnet. He points out that other maids do not have such embroidery and asks if there is a special reason behind hers. She chuckles and tells him that her mother did it for her. She loves animals, so her mother always embroidered animals onto her clothes. She adds that her mother had not realized the bonnet was part of her uniform and had stitched on it. She kept it because she did not want to ruin the stitches. Then she asks if it bothers him. Before she can finish, he cuts her off and tells her that it is beautiful. Her mother worked hard on it, and she should cherish it at all costs. That day, she smiles at him with appreciation. He sees her face light up despite how tired she must have been. Even when she has every reason to quit, she has never once lost her smile. As he holds her, he tells her that all he wants is to see her face light up again. She replies that she never imagined something like this would happen to her, but she will be all right. It is all in the past, and she will get over it as long as she keeps herself busy. He tells her that is not true. He can see how difficult it has been for her. She must have been terrified and distressed. He asks what he can do to lift her spirit. He hates himself for not caring for her before. He apologizes and promises to do whatever he can to make sure Jaden never comes near her again. He assures her that she will face no repercussions for this incident and that no one will blame her, not even Miss Leanne or the other servants. He tells her he is sorry and hugs her. She is so shocked that she starts crying. He tells her she can cry all she wants. Her sobs grow louder. He encourages her, telling her to let it out. She has been through so much. After some time, she finally leaves the room. She thinks to herself that she must have cried for too long. She feels embarrassed for wetting his clothes with her tears, so she decides to make sure they are cleaned. She also thinks about the heat. It must be the summer period. Meanwhile, his mind flashes back to what Jaden said about her earlier. He thinks to himself that he must have gotten too close to her. If he goes any further, she might be in trouble. Outside the hospital, Anna is cleaning when she sees Asha walking toward the building. She thinks to herself that here she comes again, walking as always at the crack of dawn. She confronts her, saying that she must be really stubborn to come all the way this early. But there is something different this time. She looks exhausted. The nurse asks what is wrong, but she seems lost in thought, completely zoned out. Concerned, she reaches out and touches her, wondering if something has happened. Her mind flashes back to how she has been all over the place, worrying about Lee. Something must really be going on, but she knows it is pointless to ask. There will be no answer. She wonders if maybe her mother's illness has gotten worse. She finally asks how he is doing. The response comes that he is probably having his morning checkup with Dr. Nam. She asks again if he is getting any better. The question brings hesitation. A deep thought follows. He is definitely recovering, and in fact he is recovering at an impossible rate. It almost makes her wonder if he is even human. The burns he came in with are healing, though there will certainly be some long-term effects. But ever since Asha left, he has refused food, keeping to himself like a dog abandoned by its owner. He skips his meals and keeps muttering the word master under his breath like some kind of enchantment. She can only assume that means her. It has reached the point where he now refuses treatment from other nurses except for her. He only gives in when Dr. Nam tells him that she is away for a few days and that she would not be happy if he does not get better. And when he hears that she is coming, he starts preparing himself. A question breaks the long train of thought. She asks if he is not recovering, saying that Dr. Nam had barely saved him and asking if it had been critical. A quick reply follows, assuring her that he is recovering just fine. He is tough, and there is no need to worry. But for the rest, she will have to see for herself. A thought runs through her mind. She has been so busy that she has not been able to take care of him properly. She should have sent letters to ask how he was doing, but there has been no time. Her mind drifts to the message she received about her mother. The letter says that her condition is getting worse, that she cannot stop coughing. It is written by a concerned neighbor who has been looking after her. It is bad enough that he is in the hospital. Now her mother's illness is worsening. Life is tough. Then she hears a familiar voice calling her. "Master." The words reach her ears. Is it really him? He runs toward her and hugs her tightly, telling her how much he has missed her. She asks how he is feeling and if his wounds still hurt. He assures her that he is getting better, that he is following the doctor's orders and taking his medicine properly. Then he repeats how much he has missed her and asks what has taken her so long. She tells him that she has missed him too, and that she is glad to see him doing better. He looks at her, his eyes filled with something deeper. He admits that he thought he would never see her again. He had not known if she would come back. When she had not come to see him, he had thought she had abandoned him because he had become useless. She looks at him and notices the fear in his eyes. Not seeing her has made him anxious. A thought crosses her mind. For someone who has lived such a secluded life, this kind of change must be shocking and terrifying. And to be left by the person who rescued him must be unsettling. She tells him that she has just been busy with work, which is why she has not been able to check on him. She adds that he must have been scared and that she should have explained herself better. He asks if that means she is done with work and will stay with him now. She tiredly tells him that she is not his master and that her work never ends. He then asks if she can quit and stay with him. She tells him she is afraid she cannot do that. She needs money for her mother's treatment and for his recovery. Tears fall from his eyes. She laughs, telling him he looks like a little puppy. She touches his head and smiles. A thought comes to her. Her heart has been through so much, but spending a little time with him has lifted her spirit. On the other hand, he admires how his master smiles. He pulls her close, telling her not to stop. But the moment is interrupted. Dr. Nam arrives and comments that they look mighty cozy together. She quickly pulls away, questioning what has just happened. Turning to him, she asks if he needs anything. He tells her that he would like to speak with her in private. He asks if she can come to his office. Her mind drifts. Maybe something bad has happened to Lee. At the doctor's office, he asks her to sit down. She takes a seat, and he offers her lemon tea, saying it is good for fatigue. He tells her to drink it slowly so it has time to cool. She appreciates the gesture, but her mind keeps worrying. If something has happened, she hopes it is not serious. He seemed fine when she saw him earlier, but she still wonders if there is some illness she is not aware of, or if there is nothing else the doctor can do for him. She asks if his recovery will take a long time. The doctor tells her that it will take time. She brings up the burns, asking if they will never fully heal. He assures her that is not the case. He has seen many people with even worse burns, and they made full recoveries. He reminds her that she saw him earlier, running around perfectly fine, but even though he is relieved for her to see the progress, he feels she should know the truth. The truth is that he is showing signs of long-term addiction to potion. His body already has a considerable amount of toxins, and only the most severe addicts display symptoms like black fingertips. Anyone else with that much poison in their body would not have survived. So the fact that he is even walking is nothing short of a miracle. She feels a deep sadness. She has not realized he is so ill. If she had known, she would have paid more attention. She thinks to herself that this truth is not surprising. When she first met him and then saw him again later, he already looked as if he had been sedated by potion. But she is not a doctor, so she has no way of knowing how bad it is. She has been so sure that he would overcome it, since he is recovering so quickly. Still, she feels that she could have done more. Tears fall as she regrets not paying closer attention instead of being distracted by everything else. She asks what can be done. The doctor reassures her that it is not hopeless. At the rate of his recovery, he will improve with effort and steady treatment. She asks if there is any way to remove the poison from his body. He tells her there is no such method. He has been exposed for too long. He might get better over time, but it will not happen anytime soon. He warns that there could be long-term effects and that his burned face might never fully return to its original state. Luckily, his recovery is remarkable. The doctor almost wonders if he is even human. Any normal patient with such severe burns would have needed months to heal, but he has recovered in a matter of weeks. She asks if that means he can make a full recovery. The doctor admits that with his strength, it is possible he could reach full recovery with time. He calls her name, and she answers. She is aware that nothing is more dangerous than false hope. Many runaway slaves have come to the hospital, and none of them have survived, but she still will not give up. Not until he is free from his suffering. Even if there is only a small chance of him getting better, she wants to do everything she can to help him. She pleads with the doctor to tell her what needs to be done. He agrees that they will not give up on him. She hurries back to his ward, determined that it is time to go all in on his treatment. She will not give up on him. She will protect him no matter what. As she enters, the smell of disinfectant fills the room. She calls his name, but he does not answer. She wonders why he is ignoring her. She calls again, telling him it is her, but there is still no response. It is strange, considering how happy he was to see her earlier. She tells him she has brought him a gift. He finally turns to her, repeating the word gift. She smiles, saying that she has bought him some clothes. Since he is still recovering, he will be out of the hospital soon, and he will not be able to wear the same clothes every day. He asks if she has made them for him. She tells him she does not have the time to make anything, but she has bought them at the market. He tells her he is so happy about it. She tells him she is glad he likes it. She had to guess his size since she does not know his measurements. She suggests that he try them on. He puts on the clothes and asks how he looks. She observes that they are a little small. He tells her he loves them because they are comfortable. He adds that no one has ever given him something this nice. He hugs her, thanking her. She quickly shoves him back and tells him not to do that. He asks what is wrong. She reminds him that she has told him before not to call her master. If others hear, they will get the wrong idea. She raises her voice, telling him to listen carefully. He cannot call her master when other people are around, only in front of Anna or the doctor. Others might try to take advantage of him. He asks if that is the reason. She asks what he means. He explains that the last time she told him to call her by her name, she had not visited him for a whole week. He thought she had been upset with him. Tears fill his eyes as he promises not to do it again. He is really sorry. He pleads with her not to leave him again. She thinks to herself, if he truly believes he is being abandoned again. Her thoughts continue as she remembers the first thing he had been worried about. He had feared that his injuries would make him useless. She wonders if the reason he had been anxious and stayed under his sheets was because he thought she would leave him because of his addiction. He tells her that he thought she was punishing him for disobeying orders. She is shocked that this is what has been on his mind. No wonder he was so happy to see her earlier. She tells him that he has the wrong idea. She explains that she works as a maid at Lostbyton Manor and had been too busy to visit last week. She holds his hand and assures him that she would never punish him. He asks if she hates him. She yells back at him that she absolutely does not. She tells him that she missed him, which is why she came to see him. He asks if she swears it. She stammers, but confirms that she does. He then asks if he can stay with her forever. She tells him that he can, but he needs to stop calling her master. He makes a pinky promise with her and calls her by her name, saying that he wants to stay by her side. He tells her that he is almost better now, but he is scared of being alone. He reminds her that she said he could stay with her forever, and that is all he wants. He says he wants to eat with her, work with her, and just be with her. He asks if he can. Then he mentions that the doctor said his condition is very bad and could be fatal. She tells him that is not true. With steady treatment, he will get better in time. He tells her that there is no way to be sure. If he is fated to die soon, he wants to spend the rest of his days with her. His last wish is to be with her a little longer. Seeing how down he is becoming, she thinks of cheering him up. She tells him that she will speak with the head chef and see if he can get a job at Laspitten Manor. He asks if that means he will be able to spend more time with her there. She tells him that she will figure it out somehow. He is so happy that he hugs her and thanks her. She thinks to herself that he sounds so thrilled by the idea. How can she tell him no? She has to make it happen no matter what. At the manor, she takes a deep breath. She has to try to get a job for him as she promised. But every unit seems full. They even tell her that they already have too many staff. She never knew finding a job would be this hard. For the last few weeks, she has been saying whatever she can to soothe him whenever she visits. She finally tells him that they will not be able to work together. He asks why not. She tries to explain that getting a job for him is harder than she thought. He cuts her off, asking if she is trying to get rid of him. She asks what he means. He asks if she does not need him anymore. He wonders how much time he has left and says that he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. She yells at him not to talk like that. He should not give up so soon. They will find him a job at the manor. Now she has made another promise she cannot keep. She tells herself that she should not have promised him a job in the first place. She thinks about it. Bringing a slave like him into the grand home of Laspitten Manor will be difficult. Even a passing dog would be considered a better candidate. It will not be easy for him to overcome his past. He still has the mark of a slave on his back. How can she make the manor hire him? Even though nobles have eased up on their views of commoners over the years, they are still just as prejudiced against slaves. She becomes frustrated. Even if a position becomes available, then what? She is pulled from her thoughts when someone calls her name. She is told that she is too young to be sighing away all her luck. She is asked what is wrong since she has been down all day. She is shocked that someone has noticed. She is told that her dark circles show that something is wrong. She is asked if it is about her mother. She denies it but tells herself that it is something out of her control. She is told that whatever it is better to talk to someone. She appreciates the concern. As they continue lunch, one of the male staff asks about replacing the cook who ran away last night. Another male staff member suggests letting her do it. He says that she made the stew today and it was good. They could just get someone to chop vegetables and do the dishes. Someone asks who that someone would be. Another responds that there is no need to hire anyone. The manor could just use another slave. Someone else replies that they have tried, but Mr. Dawson has chased all of them away. They turn to her companion and ask if she can help talk to Mr. Dawson. He is always a bully when it comes to newbies. Another staff member says he does not care about anything except getting another male on the team. He adds that she is a hard worker, but she has no muscles, so he has to do all the heavy lifting. Another staff member mocks him, saying that he is not that good at chopping vegetables anyway and has to earn his keep. He becomes angry and asks what that means. Meanwhile, she is lost in thought. If a cook has run away, then there should be an open position. She asks if the kitchen needs more hands. The answer is yes, but there is no telling how long the next person will last. She is happy. She can find a job for him. She thinks about it carefully. Kitchen work is not easy, but even with his limited social skills, he should be able to do it. The real problem is finding someone to vouch for him when he has no family to speak of. She turns to the woman beside her and asks if she has ever hired a servant who came with no clear reference. The question seems confusing at first, so she explains further. She asks if there was ever a time when an orphan whose entire family had passed away, or someone who had been cut off from their kin, had been hired without proper references. The response is clear. Even in such cases, someone still has to provide a reference. House Laspitten is strict about who they hire. The first step is always a reference check, followed by an interview. But without a proper reference, no applicant would even get that far. Hearing this, she laughs softly and admits that she is right. Then, she asks what would happen if she recommends someone she knows. The response is hesitant. She has not been with the manor for long, but she is a hard worker and capable. If the applicant is a friend of those in charge, then maybe they would stand a chance. A smile appears as the thought settles in. It seems like they will soon be hiring an orphan who has lost his entire family. She turns back and asks if she knows anyone looking for work. The response is quick, no. But the question comes again, is she sure? She thinks to herself that, as always, nothing ever gets past the older woman. She reminds herself that thanks to the staff member who ran away, he now has the chance to work with her. But that still leaves the hardest and most important problem to solve. Who can give him a reference? Who would be kind enough to help a slave? No one comes to mind. She gets dressed and looks at her clothes. She has never worn anything like this before. Her regular clothes were ruined in the fire when she rescued him. This is the only outfit she has. But the moment another girl found out, she was given more clothes. That day, new clothes were brought to her since she had nothing to wear. She had tried to refuse, saying she would just buy new ones, but the girl insisted. All her money had been spent on her mother's medicine. She was told that she could not just buy one outfit and keep wearing it every day. There was even a joke that she would get a boyfriend one day and would need to go on dates. She was asked if she would not want to dress properly. The one who gave her the clothes had gained weight and worked at the hospital with no time to socialize. Since the clothes were given to her, she thinks to herself that she should take care of them properly. She hurries to reach him as fast as she can and apologizes for being late. He runs toward her and hugs her tightly. He has been so excited about going out with her that he spent the whole day before getting ready. She tells him that is good, but his face is not fully healed. He should be careful not to rub it against anything. He promises to do his best. Looking at him closely, she realizes he is wearing the clothes she bought for him. Seeing that, she decides she will buy him more. It is her first time taking him outside, and she feels that a crowded place with many people is not the best choice for a first outing. But with all the advice she received, they agreed to go. She had wanted to take things slower, but now it is too late. He gets nervous because of the crowd. She asks him to hold hands because of it. They both hold hands and walk around. They visit many shops, boutiques, and more. She watches him closely. He adapts to the crowd quickly, which makes her believe he is ready for the job. She tells him to wait while she goes to get them something to drink. On the way, she stumbles into a thug. He yells at her. She quickly apologizes. Suddenly, she is pulled back. Arms wrap around her protectively. The thug is shocked and runs away. But then she hears coughing. She turns on the alarm. Fear fills her chest. He is coughing hard. She asks what is wrong. A terrible thought crosses her mind. Is he about to pass out? She thinks that they really need to leave so they do not attract attention. She also wonders if it is one of the side effects the doctor mentioned. He said that after a traumatic event, he would become very stressed. She takes him to an alley, thinking that they should not be disturbed there. She tells him to hang in there, that she knows he is sick. Her mind flashes back to something she read about magic being an extension of the user's heart. She does not know how true it is, but she prays that it is because she does not want him to suffer right now. She awakens her magic powers to heal him. She asks if he is feeling better. He looks zoned out, so she calls his name. She tells him that it is strange that he no longer seems to have a fever and that his breathing is more stable. Looking at her, he thinks that she is so kind, even more caring than his own mother. He stands up and tells her that he feels all better and that they should go. He reminds her that they have one more stop to make. Smiling, he stretches his hand to her. She seems very happy when she sees a type of house. He asks if that is her dream house. She tells him yes, that she has always dreamed of living in that kind of house. She explains in detail that she wants a house where she can have her own garden to grow vegetables and windows that bask in the glow of the sunset. She asks if it would not be great to live in such a house with him and her mother. He tells her that one day he will make that dream come true for her. She asks if he means it, that she will leave it to him. They approach the door and it opens. A friendly-looking man steps out. He is the officer who came to his rescue during the fire outbreak. He tells her that he thought she would have arrived earlier. She presents a gift to him and his wife, telling them that it is not much. The woman appreciates it and says that she has heard a lot about her and that she is adorable. She approaches him to welcome him, but he dodges her. She quickly apologizes on his behalf, saying that he is shy. The woman tells her not to worry, that she just got excited because they just met. She listens as the officer asks why he cannot just write a reference for him. She blinks in surprise. He says that he has seen him work hard, that he is willing to change his life, and that he has someone looking out for him. He asks if that is not enough. She stares at him, unsure of what to say. The boy looks just as surprised. The officer laughs, saying that it is not a big deal. He has connections and can vouch for him as long as he proves himself. She asks if he really means it. The officer nods and tells the boy to come by his office tomorrow. He will make it official. The boy's eyes widen as he grabs her hand excitedly. She laughs and thanks the officer, saying that she did not expect things to work out this way. The officer tells her that she should learn to rely on others sometimes. He says that she is stubborn, but has a good heart. He tells the boy not to disappoint him. The boy nods eagerly and promises that he will not. The officer smiles and tells them to get home safely. As he drives away, the boy keeps staring at her. She asks what is wrong. He shakes his head and says that he just cannot believe it. He asks if he is really going to work at the manor. She nods and tells him that it is finally happening. He jumps excitedly, grabs her hands, and spins her around. She tells him to stop before they trip, but she is laughing. He suddenly stops and looks at her seriously. He tells her that he will work really hard. He will do his best. She nods and tells him that she knows he will. They walk home together, the boy smiling the entire way. The officer insists that a reference from Sir Jack should give Lee all the credibility he needs to secure the job. Asha is a bit stunned, but knows it's true. After all, who could provide a more credible reference than a knight? Still, she doesn't want to risk Sir Jack getting caught up in any trouble if Lee's identity causes issues. She can already picture him being escorted away by other knights, weapons in hand, and that's a thought she definitely doesn't enjoy. As the images run through her mind, she appreciates Sir Jack's generous offer, but turns it down. She doesn't want to put him at risk, especially a knight of the Empire like him. Lee, however, is confident that they can work it all out without anyone getting caught. Asha's still not so sure. Sir Jack doesn't argue that it might be dangerous to vouch for Lee with a reference letter, but he believes with all his heart that neither Asha nor Lee would cause him any trouble. In fact, the most he'd risk is his knight position, and he's near retirement anyway, so he's really not bothered. He stands firm. His offer stands. He wants Lee to get to work now that he's out of the hospital. Asha remains reluctant, reminding him that he's already served them a delicious dinner and done so much for them. She really doesn't think it's wise to ask for anything more from him. She promises to find another way for Lee to get a job, even if it means some creative thinking is involved. Sir Jack isn't fazed in the slightest. In fact, he insists that Asha just do as he says, no arguments. He wouldn't want them ending up in some sketchy place working for the wrong kind of people, especially not with Lee's already questionable luck. With a cheeky grin, he proudly declares that he's been a knight for over 20 years. 2 whole decades of upstanding employment, never once fired, demoted, or thrown out for bad behavior. If that doesn't scream credibility, what does? At his words, Asha's eyes suddenly fill with tears, and before she knows it, they start spilling over. Lee, understandably alarmed, immediately asks if she's in pain or if something's wrong. She's not in pain, not physically at least. It's just overwhelming, the way Sir Jack is showing them so much kindness. After everything, after all the stress, having someone who actually cares is enough to make her crack just a little. Sir Jack glances at the 2 young people in front of him, and for a moment, he wonders just how much Asha has been through. If something as simple as an offer of help is enough to bring her to tears. That thought sits nicely in his mind. a comforting confirmation that he's doing something good. But deep down, behind that confident front, he really has no idea what would happen if he got caught. He only told them otherwise to ease their worries. Truthfully, the thought of his fate being left to the mercy of Imperial Knights is bad enough, but if his wife Margaret were to find out? Now, that's real danger. For reasons he can't quite explain, he feels a strong, unshakable need to help these two. Maybe it's just the right thing to do. Maybe it's fate. Or maybe he's just an old knight who wants to make sure they don't walk straight into disaster. Either way, his hope now is that this small act of kindness keeps them safe from whatever trouble is waiting around the corner. Lee looks almost unrecognizable in proper clothes. Gone is the scruffy, rugged appearance. Now he walks into the kitchen with an air of complete nonchalance, unaware of the commotion he's causing. The maidens gape, the manservant actually pauses mid-task, and whispers ripple through the workforce. Apparently, their new coworker isn't just decent-looking. He's straight out of a nobleman's portrait. The master chef, however, is unfazed. He steps forward, clears his throat, and introduces Lee as a new servant, making it known that the young man is a friend of Asha's. He gives a stern yet fair warning to the kitchen staff. There will be no trouble, no hazing, and absolutely no nonsense. Lee is new to this kind of environment, having spent his life in seclusion up in the mountains, and the chef expects them to treat him well. Like it or not, this kitchen is Lee's new family now, and families don't throw punches. Unless it's dough. The workforce, caught somewhere between curiosity and fear of the chef's wrath, collectively shouts, "Yes, sir!" in perfect unison. Satisfied, the master chef turns to Lee and gestures for him to say hello, but they're greeted with silence. Lee just stands there. Asha, watching from the side, feels a familiar wave of panic. She had warned him repeatedly to watch his manners. Yet here he was, standing mute in front of his new colleagues, looking like some mysterious hero from a romance novel. With a casual but firm step, she walks up and discreetly pokes him in the ribs. Lee finally moves. He bows in respect to everyone present, and just like that, the tension shifts. The workers, clearly pleased with this display of humility, break into applause. Some nod approvingly, others smile, and just like that, he's officially one of them. Not wasting another second, the master chef claps his hands and orders everyone back to work. The kitchen comes alive again, the murmurs fade, and Lee, despite all the initial fuss, gets his first taste of life in the kitchen. Work begins without a moment's delay. Asha, ever the efficient teacher, drops a massive bowl of potatoes on the counter and rolls up her sleeves, ready to show Lee how to properly prepare vegetables. With effortless skill, she starts peeling, and Lee watches her with an intensity that could probably set the potatoes on fire. His focus is razor sharp. He's determined not to miss a single movement, as if this were some sacred technique only a chosen few could master. Once she's peeled a few, Asha turns to him expectantly and asks if he'd like to give it a shot. Lee nods, expression seriously giving off a, "I'd like to try" vibe. She hands him a small basket of potatoes, letting him know these are his to handle while she takes care of the rest. Lee accepts the task with the gravity of someone about to embark on a world-saving mission. Meanwhile, Asha makes quick work of her pile, finishing a mountain of potatoes in mere seconds. Lee, fully engrossed in his own task, looks up just in time to see the last potato skin flying off her knife. Our male lead blinks. Once, twice, he's stunned. Our guy could swear he didn't even see her hands moving. That's how fast she was. For a moment, he genuinely considers whether Asha might have superhuman abilities, but before he can ask, she enthusiastically offers to teach him how to handle all the other vegetables. That is until she glances at his basket and finds out he's still not done. Asha tilts her head, puzzled. Peeling potatoes is the easiest task in the kitchen, and yet here Lee is, carefully working through them like he's crafting fine art. She lets out a small sigh and decides to offer some speed tips. In the kitchen, it's not about perfection, it's about efficiency. After the potatoes, he's expected to move on to carrots and onions. Asha can't help but smirk at the thought of him dealing with onions. She teases, "Cutting onions might make you cry." Lee, ever the serious student, processes her words, nods, and affirms his commitment to the mission. "I'm on it." And with that, his vegetable journey continues. Asha launches into a full-on lecture about carrot preparation, explaining that it's a completely different approach from peeling potatoes. The techniques aren't the same, and carrots are used in a variety of dishes, so precision matters. Meanwhile, Lee peels and cuts with quiet determination, nodding every now and then to show he's following along. Once again, he affirms, "I got it." Our girl, however, is just getting started. She's on a mission. She declares that she's here to put him through everything. After mastering squash, he'll move on to peppers, then corn, then herbs. There's a whole syllabus, one she seems to have planned out in her head long before this moment. First, vegetables, then it's fruit cutting. After that, dishwashing. It's a structured, well-thought-out curriculum, and Lee, whether he's ready or not, is enrolled. As she talks, without so much as pausing for breath, Lee keeps at his slow but steady potato peeling. The rhythm of Asha's voice is endless, an uninterrupted stream of culinary wisdom. It's almost hypnotic. Then a loud voice cuts through the kitchen. "Melts raspberries. Where are they?" Without even turning her head or skipping a beat, Asha casually flicks her gaze toward the voice, and as if programmed to know the exact coordinates of every single ingredient in the kitchen, points directly to the refrigerator. "The raspberries are in the middle section, second shelf from the top, behind the milk," she says, not missing a single beat in her ongoing lecture. With that handled, she turns right back to Lee, seamlessly continuing where she left off. She reminds him that they'll need to check the storage during lunch to see if they need to restock ingredients. And then she talks, and talks, and talks. Lee, at first focused, gradually finds himself drowning in her unrelenting stream of instructions. He's peeling potatoes, yes, but mentally he's sinking into a vast, confusing lake of kitchen terminology, storage plans, and future tasks. His mind drifts, eyes glazing over as he tries to process everything at once. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he wonders, was peeling vegetables supposed to feel this overwhelming? After some time, Lee finally completes all the tasks he'd been assigned. He walks over to inform Asha, and she immediately acknowledges his efforts, offering a quick nod of appreciation before pointing him toward his next task. Lee can't believe just how efficient she is. Every move she makes is precise, seamless, and done with an almost supernatural level of skill. He watches her in action, utterly impressed as she executes her duties with a grace that leaves him speechless. How does she do this every day? And on top of that, still find time to visit him while he was recovering? For the first time, Lee sees Asha in a whole new light. She isn't just a hard worker, she's like a kitchen fairy, effortlessly weaving magic into every task she touches. Later that night, Lee lays in his quarters, completely drained of both color and strength. He has never felt exhaustion like this before. Just as he's beginning to question his life choices, a knock sounds at the door. He barely has the energy to lift his head, but then her voice comes through, asking if he's sleeping. Lee, despite being moments away from slipping into a coma just seconds ago, suddenly springs up in bed, full of energy, informs her to come in. She steps inside, only to immediately wave a hand in front of her face. The room is covered in a layer of dust so thick it could probably be harvested and sold. Asha frowns, coughing lightly. "No wonder," she mutters. "No one's used this room in ages." She's certain it'll take some serious effort to clean up. Without hesitation, she strides over to the window and throws it open, letting in fresh air. Lee, now noticing something in her hand, narrows his eyes. "What's that?" Asha holds up a piece of fabric and presents it to him. It's a nightgown. She figured his skin's still healing, so he might need something more comfortable to sleep in. Lee's eyes light up like a kid getting a present. His eyes right now are asking the question, "You brought something for me?" Before she can even finish her sentence, he snatches the fabric from her hands, excitement written all over his face. She'd wanted to say a few words, but it's too late. Too late. In a single swift motion, Lee yanks off the clothes he's wearing, completely ignoring Asha's attempt to explain something about the nightgown. Within seconds, he's already throwing it over himself, eager to test it out. Asha just sighs, shaking her head. Why is she even surprised at this point? At first, Lee eagerly slips into the nightgown, but something feels very off. The fabric is light, comfortable, but also oddly restrictive in some places. He frowns, glancing down in confusion. Asha takes one look at him and immediately points out the problem. Lee is wearing it backwards. He casually fixes it, turning it the right way around, expecting an improvement. But the moment he finally gets it on properly, he realizes this is not what he signed up for. The nightgown drapes over him in a way he didn't anticipate. It's soft, flowing, and, well, it's dramatically elegant. A gentle breeze from the open window makes the fabric flutter slightly, and suddenly Lee is standing there looking less like a battle-hardened man and more like a noblewoman about to sip tea in a luxurious palace. Asha's panic sets in immediately. She rushes to explain. Claims she'd asked them to give her the softest garments they had, and this is what they offered. Her words trail off as she fully takes in the sight before her. Lee, standing in the dimly lit room, bathed in moonlight, looking like some sort of ethereal princess. Asha shuts her eyes for a brief moment, trying to reset her brain. Maybe if she closes them for just a second, reality will correct itself. She opens them again. Nope, still a diva. And worse, Lee looks really hurt. Asha's panic deepens. She had just wanted him to be comfortable, not to shatter his dignity. Now she has no idea what to do. Asha panics the moment she sees Lee's expression. He looks absolutely heartbroken, devastated even. Oh no, he must hate the gown. Maybe it's too frilly, too delicate, too much like something her grandmother would wear? Before she can spiral further, he speaks, claims he loves it. Asha blinks. Did she hear that right? She studies his face, searching for any signs of sarcasm, but all she finds is sincerity. He's serious. Her brain stalls. He likes the lady's nightgown? Why? She blurts out before she can stop herself. Lee, with the softest, most heartfelt smile, looks down at the fabric and gently runs his fingers over it. Because it's soft and warm, and she gave it to him. Our female lead stares, her heart melted, her soul ascended. And when she spots the tips of his ears turning red, she nearly bursts. A big beaming smile spreads across her face, and suddenly, the whole world feels a little bit brighter. The night passes without incident, and so do the days. Weeks slip by, and Asha learns something unexpected. Lee is, in fact, absolutely terrible with his hands. Peeling a single basket of potatoes takes him weeks. Okay, maybe not literally, but it certainly feels like it. She forgets that at this point, she's practically a kitchen fairy, dicing onions with the speed of a seasoned chef while he struggles with what should be the simplest of tasks. The kitchen is a battlefield. Pans sizzle, flames roar, and the air is thick with the scent of spices and sweat. The maids and manservants work tirelessly, dodging hot oil splatters like trained warriors. And in the middle of it all is Lee, face drenched in sweat, but never once uttering a complaint. Asha has to respect the dedication, even if she does fear for his well-being. As she moves through her daily tasks, her gaze drifts toward him more often than she'd like to admit. Questions fill her mind. Is he okay? Is he struggling again? Will he break a plate if I turn my back for 5 seconds? The thought of him having some sort of tragic encounter with one of the other servants crosses her mind more than once. He's quiet, but who's to say someone won't pick on him? Or worse, what if he tries to multitask? She shakes her head. No, he wouldn't dare. Asha is so busy watching Lee that she doesn't notice the intense stare burning into the side of her face. The master chef, arms crossed and scowl in full force, is not amused. Asha! His voice booms through the kitchen like a thunderclap. She jumps so hard she nearly knocks over a pot. Yes, if you're going to daydream, do it somewhere that isn't next to an open flame. He gestures at the roaring stove. I'd rather not spend my afternoon putting out a fire, or worse, explaining to the Duke why one of his maids is extra crispy. Asha flinches. Right. Fire. Dangerous. Got it. She straightens up, nodding frantically, and gets back to work with laser focus. No more distractions for about 5 minutes. Orders start flying in, the kitchen turns into pure chaos, and then Tina strolls in, calling on our female lead. She whirls around. Her friend, who looks like she's about 5 seconds away from collapsing, clutches the doorway like it's the only thing keeping her upright. Please, she croaks. Laundry. She needs serious help. Asha blinks. Her friend wails. All of the other help's gone. Poof. Turns out the new hires didn't just leave. They fled. And the reason? Their boss, whom everyone calls a witch, has been running them into the ground on purpose, fully aware the staff is already short-handed. Asha's friend lets out a dramatic groan. I swear I'm gonna die from overwork. And if that happens, I'll never find someone to marry. It'll be her fault, that witch. Asha sighs and gently pats her friend's back, assuring her she's not alone. That's what friends are for. Her friend looks up, lip trembling, and then tears, actual tears. Tina appreciates our female lead and calls her the best. Our girl smiles, wiping a stray tear off her friend's cheek before rolling up her sleeves. Come on, let's get this done before you start writing a will. As the two head out, Asha throws one last glance toward Lee. He's at the sink, diligently scrubbing dishes, and oh? One of the manservants actually praises him? Huh? Guess peeling potatoes wasn't his only skill after all. Reassured that the kitchen won't explode in her absence, she finally steps outside. The ladies are outside now, hanging the laundry while the sun beats down on them. Tina, never one to let silence linger, starts up a conversation. So, how much longer does Lee have to stay wrapped up like a mummy? Asha folds a sheet and hums in thought. Not much longer. Tina's eyes sparkle with curiosity. So she wants to know what actually happened. She'd heard his house burn down, but what's the story really? She trails off, clearly fishing for more details. I really want to see what he actually looks like. Asha laughs, shaking her head as she clips a cloth in place. You and half the workforce. Tina crosses her arms, deep in thought. Well, I did notice his violet eyes. That's not exactly common. I just know he's super handsome under all those bandages. Asha snorts. He was. Then, realizing how that sounds, she quickly corrects herself. I mean, with the accident and all, he's probably covered in severe scars now. Don't get your hopes too high. Tina sighs dramatically. Well, that's a shame. Asha, glancing up at the sky, quietly hopes Lee recovers soon. But before she can dwell on it, Tina drops a bombshell. Okay, but more importantly, she asks what's going on between the two. Asha nearly drops the pillowcase in her hands. Her head lowers like someone just struck a chord deep in her soul. Tina squints, poking her side. Hello? Earth to Asha? Asha blinks a few times, snapping out of it, and clears her throat. What do you mean? Tina leans in, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Oh, you know what I mean. You two are always together. It's raising eyebrows, serious eyebrows. Asha waves her off, huffing. It's not what you think. Tina narrows her eyes, clearly not convinced, but Asha ignores her and focuses on the laundry, acting like the conversation never happened. Back in the kitchen, two manservants casually walks up to Lee, one on both sides, and engage him in what's more or less an interview or even mockery too. The first guy claims our male lead will never get married if he stays so gloomy and quiet with zero social skills attached to his personality. Lee keeps at his duties, sparing no words in response. The other dude also takes a swing, stating that Asha is a hard worker, so he's certain she'll never have to worry about earning a living, but what he's only concerned for Lee, 'cause he feels someone else is gonna steal her from our male lead if Lee doesn't make a move. The guys laugh and laugh, but our male lead stays silent. Miss Sal asks the dudes to let Lee be, but the manservants don't let it go. One of the guys points out that Asha's at just the age to get married and settle down, but the man she brought over, he point to Lee, is such a downer. The manservants have no shame. They believe they've got every reason to be concerned. Miss Sal wasn't buying into their story. There are a lot of better things for them to worry about, and Lee shouldn't be anywhere near the top of that list. She calls them old-fashioned, and points out that Lee and Asha are simply close friends, so she'd appreciate it if they all mind their business. The manservant Tom still had lots more to say, and wouldn't shut up about Asha, and then Miss Sal lets out a deep sigh. She knows quite well that Tom would be far much more helpful if he didn't run his mouth so much. The manservant still didn't relax. He claims he's always been helpful, reason being that he spreads his wisdom here and there. I don't think this dude is so wise like he claims. So much talk, and in all this, Lee sticks to washing dishes and says absolutely nothing. The bell jingles, and it's Lord Benjamin calling on the servants. Everyone wonders what the Lord could possibly want at this hour, and Miss Sal wonders who to send up, since Asha isn't here at the moment. She takes a second to think on it and decides Lee should be the one to head up and see to Lord Benjamin's need. Our male lead doesn't object. He's here to serve after all. Lee takes majestic steps in the hallway as he heads for the Lord's chambers. As he moves closer, he perceives something very offensive, a familiar smell that brings back horrid memories from his not-so-far past. It's the smell of the drug that caused him so much pain, and it's coming from the Lord's chambers. Lee steps closer confidently, prepared to go full beast mode if need be, but he relaxes and tells himself it's got nothing to do with him anymore. Inside his chambers, Lord Benjamin stood facing the window as his door creaks open, and he welcomes Asha without turning around to see who's at the door. At the sight of the young manservant, the Lord is startled, but he keeps his composure and just manages to ask who Lee is with serious confusion written all over his face. Our male lead informs Lord Benjamin he's the new kitchen boy. Ben has heard about him, Asha's childhood friend. Our male lead affirms he is. Lord Benjamin wants to know if the new kitchen boy has known her for long, and Lee hesitates, but affirms he has for a while now. Our male lead is wondering why the Lord is asking him about Asha. Lord Benjamin steps closer, claims he'd heard Lee lost his home to a fire as if he cares. He stretches out his palm in an attempt to shake the new kitchen boy, as he apologizes for not saying hello sooner. With golden eyes and a majestic smile, he welcomes Lee to Laspitten Manor. The two young men face off, Lord Benjamin with a smile and his golden eyes, Lee with the violet eyes and what seems like rage boiling up in his gaze. Is it me, or did an unspoken competition just begin? Lord Benjamin stretches out a hand but is snubbed, and the two men face off in an awkward silence. Finally, Ben takes down his hand and assumes the new kitchen boy is just shy. With a casual smile, he states, if Lee is such good friends with Asha, then he strongly believes they'll get along pretty well too. Lord Ben hands over a book to our male lead. He politely requests Lee give it to Asha for him. He points out it's a book he bought he thought she'd enjoy. Lee's gaze deepens as he receives the book and steps out of the Lord's chambers. As the door shuts, Ben's gaze follows the new kitchen boy as he takes his leave. He recalls the look in Lee's eyes and immediately has a very strange feeling about our male lead. Lord Benjamin takes a seat and folds his arm, but the feeling remains gnawing at him, so he decides he'll do a background check on Lee, just to clear his curiosity. Out the door, our male lead strides towards Asha's location, and then suddenly pauses. He takes a look at the book in his hand, and thoughts flow freely in his heart. He's probably wondering what it means for the Lord to know what kind of book Asha likes. He must be questioning their relationship already. Later on in the day, Lee stands over the chimney fire waiting on Asha while his mind wanders for a bit. He remembers the smile on Lord Ben's face as he handed over the book, and our guy recalled how our female lead had laid so much emphasis on him being at his best behavior while on the job. She even reminded him how difficult it was to secure this job for him, so she expected nothing but the best from him, especially with Lord Benjamin. The emphasis on Lord Ben sparked something inside of Lee. He asked who Ben was, and our girl even corrected him to address Ben as Lord Benjamin. At the time she was introducing the Lord, a subtle blush appeared on her cheeks, and she claimed he has been good to her. Her reaction when talks of the Lord arose made our guy a little startled, almost enraged even. Tom's words from the kitchen earlier in the day too didn't really help matters. Tom had been like a messenger of doom, telling Lee he'd lose Asha if he didn't make a move soon enough. All of this made thoughts run wild, and Lee could even picture the Lord getting wedded to Asha and having a lovely ceremony. The thought made him so mad, his violet eyes lit up. Looking into the fire, his rage grew stronger, and finally he acts on it, flinging the book into the fire. The plans to claim it was a terrible accident. Lee watches on as the flames engulf the pages of the book. A new day dawns, and it's grocery shopping day. Asha takes Lee along with her today. Before leaving, she gives him a little brief on price ranges and educates him on the fact that he could get merchants to bring their prices down if he knew how best to communicate with them. She offers to practice a little of all she'd said at a stall close by, and our guy doesn't object. Asha speaks to the female merchant Lori. Our girl asks why the lady's peaches are so bruised today. Lori didn't understand what Asha was saying because she was certain the peaches arrived just this morning. Our girl shows the female merchant visible bruises on the peach in her hand. Lori couldn't deny it, but she claims they're the most popular produce and reiterates that they really just came this morning, so she'd rather not sell than give Asha a discount. Our female lead unleashes her secret weapon, folding her hands, letting out the most sympathetic puppy eyes Lori has seen today, and informs the merchant she's the newest maid in the kitchen, so showing up without peaches would mean trouble for her. She turns her gaze to Lori and pleads with an almost angelic gaze. The female merchant groans and sweats trying to hold back, but her heart melts. Asha was just too sweet and too cute to deny. Lori let out a deep sigh before finally agreeing to sell at a subsidized price. She claims she can't go any lower because she still has to make a living too. Asha laughs a little and appreciates Lori for her kindness before paying for the peaches. Lee couldn't help but wonder what a marvelous young lady our female lead is. She really knows her way around. Our protagonists head off into the market to get other groceries on their list. As they stride forward, Asha points out that the merchant Lori has the biggest heart of all the fruit merchants, so she's certain to get a good deal. But still, it didn't mean she tried to slice down prices all the time, so her tricks are for occasional trips. It's almost like Lee's taking notes in his head. He assures her he's clear on all she's said thus far and proceeds to take the bag off her hands. She's reluctant to bother him, but our guy insists. Asha is worried because she feels it's heavy and she really doesn't want to stress him out, but Lee just grins and assures her he's got it covered. They run through their grocery list in no time, and our girl informs him they've got some time left to roam or pretty much do whatever they want. She asks his opinion after, of course, giving a few suggestions, and then our male lead takes a few seconds to think on it before something finally pops. Lee claims there's actually a spot he'd love them to visit. She's surprised he actually has somewhere he'd like to go, and she asks about it to clear her curiosity. Our protagonists arrive at a secluded location, out in the open field with trees around providing nice shade and the place giving a stunning view of the city. It's almost magical. Asha is short of words at the sight. It's beautiful. Words fail to express how wonderful the sight is to her. She wonders how he found a place this beautiful, and Lee informs her he's seen it in the passing and calls her master. He lays down the bag of groceries close to a tree, stretches out his hand to take hers, and takes off his jacket, lays it on the ground for her to sit. His gentleman behavior has her heart skipping beats and her cheeks red with emotions she couldn't make sense of. She manages a giggle and asks what he's planning to do here. Lee takes her hand gently and feelings flood her heart as she's so shy. Somehow, Asha's beginning to feel special. At the sight of him taking off his jacket to lay on the ground, she's startled and even tries to stop him, but he claims he doesn't mind if his jacket gets dirty, as long as she's the one getting to sit on it. Too sweet. Why am I feeling so bashful? I could definitely relate to how Asha is feeling right now. Our girl takes a seat right beside him under the shade, and she appreciates him for bringing her here. Asha and Lee enjoy the lovely view, taking it all in. It's so nice out, the sun setting, the building practically glowing, the air filled with life. It's all so amazing. As they enjoy the view, the wind blows our girl's hair in her face, covering her eyes. Without wasting time, Lee leaps into action, gently removing the strands of hair from her face. Now he's got his hands on her cheek, and she's got appreciation in her lips, but the whole situation is too perfect, too sweet, too romantic for her. Asha is blushing so hard right now, her eyes glued to his and his lips calling hers. Oh my, are they going to do it? Will they kiss? Lee's fingers brush against Asha's cheek, and the unexpected warmth makes her jolt. Her eyes snap open, her expression sharp with surprise and confusion as she meets his gaze. For a moment, the concern in his eyes is almost too much, making her anger bubble up inside. She pulls her hands to her face, groaning in frustration, barely able to contain the irritation building up. The day's string of embarrassing moments only adds to the pressure, and her mind races with how much everything feels wrong right now. The urge to snap at him is strong, but she bites it back. Instead, she forces herself to take a deep breath and looks around, her gaze softening as she notices the view. The serene surroundings are almost enough to calm her, though the anger still simmers beneath the surface. She tilts her head slightly, her voice quieter now, but there's a subtle hope in it, the idea of peace and normalcy lingering in her thoughts despite her frustration. It's a fleeting thought, but she holds on to it for a moment longer before her focus shifts again. Sitting down at a wooden table, her fingers absent-mindedly flip through the pages of a book. The soft rustle of the paper helps her center herself, but her mind is still tangled. Despite her irritation, she can't help but imagine a different future, a future where things are better. A future that feels possible, even if it seems distant. As her thoughts drift, she speaks again, her tone a little softer, though still touched with frustration. The future, with all its uncertainty, seems like it might offer the change she desperately wants. But for now, all she can do is imagine it, even if it's hard to push the anger completely away. Asha turns toward Leo, her gaze steady despite the storm of thoughts racing in her mind. She wonders if it's too early to ask him, but rather than pushing for an answer, she simply smiles, a soft, hopeful expression crossing her face. Her heart believes in the future, in a world where things will get better for him. For the first time in a while, Leo's face softens, and he offers a sincere smile in return, a shift in his usual guarded demeanor. The air around them changes suddenly. Darkness swallows the world. Asha reaches out, but there's nothing to hold on to. The absence of light, the emptiness surrounds her. She feels the familiar sting of inevitability. Hadn't she known this would happen? She can't see, can't feel, and panic sets in. The silence is shattered by an unfamiliar voice, its words both strange and distant, cutting through the void. Her breath catches. "Child?" she murmurs, confusion curling in her chest. A soft, sorrowful laugh follows, followed by a tone that holds a deep sadness. Asha's chest tightens. The voice speaks again, leaving her with the feeling of helplessness. Nearby, the sound of quiet sobbing reaches her ears. She listens, heart aching, and follows the sound, desperate to understand its source. Her hand brushes against something cold. Stone, perhaps, and she recoils slightly, a shock of realization gripping her. Something begins to form in front of her, shrouded in shadow. The shape trembles under the weight of an overwhelming sorrow, and Asha watches in silence, a strange tug at her chest. Her instinct takes over, and she presses her palm to the being. A surge of energy pulses through her, stronger and more intense than anything she's felt before, nearly taking her breath away. Magic pulses within her, like fire sparking to life in a way that feels new and unfamiliar. But with that power comes something more. A flood of grief, pain, and betrayal that threatens to consume her. Her chest tightens with the weight of it, and tears begin to sting her eyes as she whispers through the heaviness in her heart. The figure stirs, its presence almost tangible as the weight of sorrow lingers in the air. A deep, ancient voice echoes with gratitude, and just as it fades, a quiet, almost imperceptible whisper follows, carrying a promise of something more. Then, the world grows still, the darkness closing in once again. Asha wakes abruptly, her breath shallow as she stirs from the remnants of her dream. Her cheeks are damp, and a soft touch confirms the wetness. Confusion fills her. Why was she crying? Fragments of the dream still echo in her mind. Something vast, something purple, something she can't fully grasp. The exhaustion presses on her heavier than usual, more than the typical weariness she's grown used to. She always wakes at this hour, but today feels different. The heaviness lingers in her bones. She shakes it off, pushing the thoughts away. No time to get lost in them. Focus. Work awaits. Taking a steadying breath, Asha moves toward Lord Benjamin's study. The plate of food in her hands suddenly feeling far heavier than it should. She's always been part of the kitchen, helping prepare meals, but today is different. Today, this meal is all hers. She sets the plate carefully in front of him, her hands trembling slightly despite her attempts to steady herself. Lord Benjamin glances at the plate but doesn't immediately react. She waits, heart pounding in her chest, trying not to show her anxiety. This is a test, one she's worked hard for, but that doesn't make the nerves go away. The silence hangs between them. He doesn't ask any questions at first, but then finally takes his fork. Asha watches him carefully, holding her breath as he brings the first bite to his lips. The seconds stretch into what feels like an eternity. Her pulse quickens. He takes another bite, his expression still unreadable, and Asha's heart races. Every instinct inside her tells her to apologize, to say something. But she remains silent, watching him closely. A few long moments pass before he finally puts the fork down, his gaze meeting hers. For a second, she fears the worst, but then a shift happens. Something in his expression changes. Asha exhales, a weight lifting off her chest as she watches the faintest hint of approval in his eyes. The tension that had been building inside her slowly starts to fade, replaced by a wave of relief. Asha's heart skipped a beat when Lord Benjamin casually asked for her help. A simple task, he claimed, but her mind spun with possibilities. What could it be? Her face flushed with a sudden, alarming thought. Her stomach churned. The moment he slipped his coat off, her breath caught. She instinctively took a step back, her face burning. The idea of helping him with something so private filled her with panic. She had imagined 1,000 scenarios, but this wasn't one of them. Her body stiffened, eyes widening with embarrassment. Lord Benjamin, clearly amused by her reaction, smirked and adjusted his shirt before asking her opinion. He seemed to enjoy seeing her flustered. In that moment, Asha's frustration bubbled beneath the surface. She crossed her arms, biting back the urge to snap, but couldn't stop herself from imagining slapping that confident smile right off his face. A shift in his tone brought her back to the present. He needed help with his necktie. Relief washed over her, though she still couldn't shake the embarrassment from earlier. Without thinking, she blurted out her opinion on which tie would suit him best. It was a small task, but something about it made her feel oddly exposed. She quickly tried to refocus as he nodded and accepted her advice. Then, just when she thought the moment might pass, he casually mentioned needing help with his hair. Asha blinked, caught off guard. Styling Lord Benjamin's hair? It felt absurd, a maid like her tending to the hair of someone so much more important. Her hands trembled as she picked up the brush, doubts clouding her mind. What if she ruined it? The pressure of the task weighed on her. She'd seen how meticulously Lord Benjamin cared for his appearance, and the idea of messing up his hair before a meeting made her stomach twist. As she began brushing, she was almost startled by how soft his hair felt beneath her fingers. The texture was completely different from Lee's, a luxurious sensation that left her nervous and unsure. Suddenly, disaster struck. The more she brushed, the more his hair seemed to rise and become unruly. Panic surged in her chest as she scrambled for a solution. She reached for a jar of gel, hoping to slick his hair back, but her hands were unsteady, making it worse with each passing moment. She kept working in a frenzy, trying to salvage the situation, but each attempt only seemed to worsen the mess. Her fingers, clumsy with panic, couldn't seem to control the unruly strands. She felt the weight of failure pressing down on her. If she ruined this, there was no telling how Lord Benjamin would react. Desperation set in as she slicked the hair back even more, hoping beyond hope that it would somehow all come together. Asha stepped back after finishing the task, her hands slightly trembling as she observed Lord Benjamin in the mirror. He examined the hairstyle she had worked on, his expression unreadable. Asha stood there, silently hoping it wasn't a complete disaster. She held her breath, watching for any sign of his approval or disappointment. Lord Benjamin finally moved, turning to face her, his eyes scanning her carefully. His smirk slowly appeared as he seemed to consider the result. It was clear he was trying to hide his amusement. After a long moment, he gave a light nod, offering a compliment for her effort. It wasn't the harsh critique she feared, and she felt a wave of relief. She quickly bowed, thankful for the kindness and the chance to leave before any more potential awkwardness could arise. "Have a good day," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the mix of emotions inside her. Before she could leave the room, however, Lord Benjamin's voice called out to her. There was a casual tone, but the question caught her off guard. He asked if she had received a book from him. This question made Asha pause, her confusion clear. She didn't remember any book being handed over to her. Lord Benjamin explained that he had given it to Lee to deliver to her, and Asha's frown deepened. She couldn't recall Lee mentioning it. Something wasn't right. It seemed odd that Lee would have forgotten such a task, and she felt a small unease growing within her. Still unsure, Asha promised to ask Lee about it. Lord Benjamin gave a slight nod, signaling the end of the conversation, but there was something in his eyes. A knowing look that made her wonder if he too suspected something was off. Leaving the room, Asha's mind wandered to Lord Benjamin's earlier kindness, and she couldn't help but reflect on how their relationship had shifted over time. There was a growing sense of familiarity between them. No longer was she just a maid in his eyes, but someone he turned to for help, someone he trusted with even his appearance. The thought made her smile to herself as she walked down the hallway, but the mention of the book lingered in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more she felt something wasn't quite right with Lee's behavior. He'd been quiet when she had asked him about it, and his response hadn't been what she expected. It left her uneasy, and she knew she had to confront him. When she eventually found Lee, she wasted no time. She asked him directly, needing an answer. He hesitated, his frown growing as he tried to deflect her question. Asha crossed her arms, determined to get to the bottom of it. There was something about his reaction that seemed off, and she wasn't going to let it slide. Lee moves past Asha, his footsteps barely a whisper as he hurries forward. Asha calls his name, trying to catch up, but her foot snags on something unseen, and she stumbles, falling hard to the ground. Pain shoots up her leg as she lands, a dark pool of blood quickly spreading beneath her knee. The sharp sound of her fall freezes Lee in his tracks. He turns, eyes wide with concern, seeing her on the ground in obvious pain. He rushes back to her, his hands already tearing a strip from his shirt to help. His hands tremble as he kneels, his heart pounding with guilt. He couldn't stop this from happening, even after everything they'd been through at Pub Wickney. That memory of the chaos still haunts him. He can't shake the fear that he's failing her again. Asha, despite the pain, tries to smile and gestures that she's fine, trying to ease his worry. But Lee can't help it. His eyes mist up as he works to help her, guilt thick in the air between them. She reaches out, gently touching his head, her hand warm and reassuring. She tries to comfort him, saying it's no big deal and that she's fine. Lee's heart feels like it's about to break, but Asha only teases him, her voice light. "You cry too easily, Lee. It's all right." She tries to ease the tension, but Lee's concern doesn't fade. He mutters her name, voice filled with worry. Asha, trying to keep the mood light, laughs softly, teasing him. "Kindness is nice, but you can't let every little thing upset you." Just as she thinks things might settle, Lee grabs her leg again, his grip tightening more than she expects. She gasps, eyes wide with confusion, her heart racing as she watches him, her mind wondering what's happening. His touch feels different now, more intense, and his breath brushes her leg, making her heart skip. The atmosphere between them shifts, and Asha calls his name, unsure of what's going on. Lee blinks, his expression faltering as if waking from a trance. He pulls back suddenly, flushing with embarrassment. He quickly wipes his mouth, avoiding her gaze, mumbling an apology, his words unclear as he looks anywhere but at her. Asha's head spins, trying to make sense of the sudden change in him. After a long pause, Lee quietly admits that he's lost the book they had been searching for. Asha's eyes widen in disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asks, but her voice isn't harsh. Instead, it's filled with a mix of frustration and concern. Lee shrugs, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to be upset with me." Asha shakes her head, exasperated, but her tone softens quickly. "Well, it's gone now. No point in dwelling on it. I'll explain things to Lord Benjamin." Lee stays quiet, his eyes fixed on the ground. After a moment, he reaches for her again, voice softer this time. "Asha, your knee." She waves him off, flashing a reassuring smile. "I'm fine. Really, you worry too much." Lee chuckles, the warmth in his gaze returning. "You're far too precious," he says, gently holding her. His face flushes slightly as he adds teasingly, "You look as red as an apple." Days later, Lee removes the bandages from his face, carefully revealing the healing skin beneath. Asha examines his progress closely, her eyes still filled with concern. "You heal fast," she says, a smile tugging at her lips as she ruffles his hair. "Good job." The doctor, who's been monitoring the healing process, nods in approval. The scars will take time, but the healing is going well. Asha tilts her head, still watching him. "Does it still hurt?" Lee hesitates, his voice low when he answers. A little, the doctor adds. Anna gathered herbs that can help with the burns. She's prepared them for your bath. Asha's surprise is eye clear. A bath? She echoes, her eyes wide at the thought. That evening, she prepares the warm bath, carefully adding the herbs. Be careful, it might be a little too hot, she warns him, and try not to get your face wet, it still needs time to heal. She hands him a towel, her tone light. I'll leave you to it. But just as she's about to leave, Lee catches her wrist. Asha pauses, looking back at him, confusion in her eyes. What is it? She asks, wondering what's going on. Lee hesitates, his voice barely above a whisper. Could you help me with my bath? Asha freezes, shocked by the request. What? She says, not sure if she heard him right. As she stands there, Lee's mind flashes back to painful memories. His body racked with agony, claws tearing at his skin over and over. The deafening roar of the crowd as each stab of pain cuts deeper. And Pierre, standing above him, watching with that twisted smile, like a predator savoring the kill. Pierre is probably still smiling. Lee's mind is stuck in the past, replaying the moment over and over. It's clear from the way his face tightens. He wasn't going to let her die so easily. He couldn't even die on his own terms. With a burst of energy, Lee leaps onto the back of the monster, his fingers digging into its thick hide. He rips a bone from its body, turning it into a weapon to bring the beast down. The crowd erupts into a frenzy. Wow! Woohoo! You're working hard tonight, boy. Lee doesn't even look at them. His gaze flicks to Pierre, his voice dripping with something close to mockery, or maybe admiration. It's like watching a thing thrash for its life. Beautiful, just beautiful. A grim resolve settles over him. If he can't die, then he might as well kill. With one swift motion, Lee breaks open the iron bars. How did he? One of Pierre's guards gasps. Stay behind us, Pierre, another shouts. Lee doesn't hear them. His vision swims and he glances down at his blood-soaked clothes. I've lost too much blood, he murmurs. Get him, someone orders, but Lee's body sways. The world darkens around him. Then a voice breaks through the haze. Please, you can't die, Lee. His eyes flutter open. Asha? Her hands are warm against his skin as she presses gently. Would you mind if I rubbed some of this on you? It'll leave a scar if I don't, she murmurs. Lee stares at her confused, his mind still clouded. Why did she do that, he wonders aloud. Asha smiles softly. It's all right, you can trust me. Trust, the word feels so heavy. Why did it weigh him down? His thoughts swirl. Why was she so desperate to save him? Remember what I said? Asha's voice is steady. We're going to get out of here together. She squeezes his hand, her grip gentle. I'm so sorry, Lee. I should have taken better care of you. Please open your eyes. Tears shimmer in her gaze. Why are you crying? He whispers. I don't want you to be sad anymore, Stop. All I want is for you to be happy. But then, a voice, a different one, deep inside his mind. Are you sure? Is that really all you want? Do you really only see her as your dear master? Lee tenses. Of course. That's all we are. A dark chuckle echoes in his mind. You're not being honest with yourself. Let me show you how you really feel. Darkness consumes him, dragging him into buried memories. Asha's voice echoes in the distance. You shouldn't be so quick to cry, Lee. It's not always good to be so soft-hearted. Yes, he remembers this, but then the memory twists. Her knee wasn't the only part of her he wanted to touch. His fingers twitch. He had wanted to trace every inch of her, to learn her in ways he hadn't dared admit. Do you still deny it? The voice prods. Would you really act this way if your thoughts were so pure? Lee clenches his jaw. I was impulsive that day, but it's not what you think. Then how about this? The memory shifts, Asha bathing him, the heat of the water, the way she looked at him. His breath hitches. Lee? Asha's voice cuts through the haze, his pulse pounds. The image of her undressing flashes in his mind. Lee stiffens the moment Asha steps into the water, his brain practically blue screens. He's blinking like a confused cat, trying to process what's happening while his heart plays the drums in his chest. She doesn't seem bothered in the slightest. Meanwhile, he's spiraling. Part of him screams that this isn't what he wanted, but another part isn't so sure. Thoughts race through his head at breakneck speed. Maybe he just wanted more of her attention. Maybe he wanted to feel a little more wanted. It wasn't supposed to be like this, though. Not in a way that made him feel so exposed. Old memories slam into him like a cart full of bricks. back when he wasn't even called by a name, just a number. And still, she had whispered love to him, something no one else ever meant. Other girls had reached for him before, but all he felt was dread. Their words clung like grease. I want you, I need you, I could own you. And yet none of it ever made his heart race. But now, his breath hitches. Her touch is gentle, and his chest tightens. Then that annoying, smug voice returns, the one that slinks around his mind like it pays rent. It taunts him, insists he wants her, that he's just lying to himself. He grits his teeth. No, he won't turn into the kind of person who took things from others. Not her. Never her. The dream doesn't care about his morals, though. It's persistent, like a salesperson at your door asking if you've got time for a quick chat about chaos. She moves closer, words tender, almost soothing. Too soothing. His heart's screaming in confusion, but she makes it sound so safe, so easy. Just a dream, right? Then his body betrays him. Arms move without permission. He pulls her close. His voice shakes. He's asking for it to stop, but the voice just laughs like it's won a game he never agreed to play. Cold dread crawls up his spine. Something foreign digs into him like it's trying to take root. His breath hitches again. He's slipping. Asha's voice breaks through like a flashlight in a fog. But it's too late. His body leans in. The kiss is brief, but it lands like thunder. She looks at him, startled but not retreating. And just like that, the storm inside him quiets, for a moment anyway. The dream deepens, thick like honey and just as sweet. Lee floats in it, completely spellbound. Everything feels warm, safe, dangerously perfect. For a second, he lets himself believe they can stay here, forever. Then reality body slams him back into the present. The room is dim and tense. A nurse sets a bowl down, her voice all gentle authority. Asha barely reacts. She's glued to the edge of Lee's bed, staring at him like her gaze alone could will him awake. Her shoulders are stiff, her eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights. Lee hasn't stirred in days. His body's still here, but every night it's like something grabs hold of him. Convulsions, shallow gasps, clenched fists. It's hard to watch, harder to accept. The nurse leaves. The soup sits untouched. Asha's hands tremble as she takes his. Her chest tightens with guilt, the kind that burrows deep and refuses to leave. She'd promised to protect him, hadn't she? And now here he is, fighting for his life while she watches, helpless. She presses her forehead to his hand, whispering words she doesn't expect anyone to hear. Not even him. But maybe, just maybe, then, movement. Fingers twitch. Eyes flutter open. At first, it doesn't register. Then her breath catches. Relief barrels in like a wave, but it crashes into a wall faster than she can catch it. He wakes, and everything goes sideways. His face is pale, but the heat in his cheeks is undeniable. One glance at her, and suddenly, she's a stranger. Her hand doesn't get a second of grace before he jerks away, gaze hard and unfamiliar. If heartbreak had a sound, it'd be silence, exactly the kind that fills the room now. And just like that, the warmth of the dream is gone, replaced by ice. Bad days always come in bundles, huh? Her voice wavers, but he doesn't see her, doesn't really see her. His gaze cuts through her like she's not even there. Then, barely audible, something slips out, sharp, venomous. His fists tighten, and whatever he's seeing, it's not her. Asha reaches out again, unsure. Maybe it's just the confusion. Maybe he's scared. Wrong guess. He shuts her out with a tone colder than the room, like a door slammed in her face. She stands frozen. The words sting, but the look, that does something worse. It's not the Lee she knows, not the boy who always looked at her like she was worth something. The confusion clogs her throat. Her chest starts to ache. The tears show up, uninvited and stubborn. She whispers an apology, trying to hold it together. Then, finally, he looks. For one fleeting second, something breaks through. He reaches out, swiping the tears from her cheeks. But his hand trembles like it's holding back a war. Inside, he's falling apart. He wants to pull her in, keep her close. But the shame weighs him down like chains. His thoughts spiral. Guilt sits heavy on his chest. So he does the only thing he thinks he deserves. He turns his back and walks away. She calls after him, voice cracking, steps following, but he doesn't stop, doesn't look back. Later that evening, the wind bites hard enough to make her eyes sting. The stars are out, but they don't offer comfort. Just cold light in a quiet world. She heads down the path alone, arms crossed against the chill. Two men stand nearby, one clearly deep into his 5th round of bad decisions. He announces his intentions to keep the party going like he's accepting an award. His friend, much less enthusiastic, mumbles something that sounds suspiciously like regret. Asha wisely opts for the oldest trick in the book: walk fast, look busy, avoid eye contact. By the time she gets home, her feet scream and her nose has lost all feeling. She opens the door and barely steps inside before her mother rushes over. One look at her face, and the concern levels up instantly. Asha flashes a sheepish grin and offers the usual excuse. Gravity and clumsiness teamed up against her again. Menri, clearly not buying it, still tucks her close, brushing her hair gently and fussing over the injury. Asha changes the subject faster than lightning, throwing in a cheerful update about work. Easy tasks, nothing stressful. Her smile wobbles, but she holds it. The truth can wait. Her mom arches a brow, clearly skeptical. Asha, all smiles, rattles off everything: fancy food, pretty clothes, accessories that sparkle more than necessary. She makes the palace sound like a boutique vacation. The tension in Menri's shoulders finally eases, but before the moment can breathe, someone outside yells her name like they're summoning a ghost. Both women freeze. Asha squints toward the door, then winces. Oh no, that's Miss Hilda's battle cry. Seconds later, the woman herself charges in like she owns the place. Eyes sharp enough to cut glass, she skips greetings and jumps straight into accusations. Apparently, something valuable has gone missing, a pouch with a not-so-small stash of money. Suspicion is already thick in the air. Menri steps forward politely, voice calm as ever. She explains that, yes, she saw the pouch, but handed it to Hilda's husband, thought he'd return it. Hilda doesn't look convinced. She smirks like she's caught a mouse in a trap. Then, drama level, maximum. A sharp slap cracks through the room. Menri stumbles, stunned, no warning, no explanation, just pure rage. She clutches her cheek, shocked, but Hilda's on a roll, hurling insults like she's trying to win a shouting match with a mirror. Menri tries to reason with her, but she's barely allowed a word. And that's when Asha steps forward. No hesitation, no filter, just fire. Her voice slices through the chaos like a well-thrown slipper. The room falls into stunned silence. Hilda's head turns, slow and dangerous. She did not like that tone. Menri's whisper is soft, pleading, but Asha's already planted herself between them, standing tall. She defends her mother without flinching, calls out the real shady one in this tale. Mr. Gorge, with his questionable memory and magician-like disappearing acts. Hilda stares her down. For a moment, the air could freeze over. Then she speaks. Quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that's way worse than yelling. The question lands heavy. It's not just about money now. It's pride. It's war. Asha doesn't blink, doesn't budge. Now it's a showdown. Standoff in the middle of the living room. No one breathes. Someone's about to snap. Ms. Hilda's voice cracks through the air like a whip. The room shifts. Asha doesn't blink. Her words land like a slap that didn't need hands. Across the room, Menri gasps like she's just watched her daughter juggle fire. Hilda throws her arms up, fully fed up and possibly one sneeze away from exploding. She stomps closer, demanding answers with wild eyes and even wilder accusations. Then her hand lifts. Asha tenses. Before it can fall, Menri darts in front, trembling but fierce. Her voice cracks with fear, but her arms spread like a human shield. Hilda scoffs at the dramatic pose, but doesn't hesitate to redirect the target. She kicks. Yes, kicks. Asha yells out, panic flaring. It's all chaos, until a familiar voice slices through like a frying pan to the head. Menri spins, her jaw drops. There stands George, looking like he just lost a fight with a bottle of cheap wine. And beside him, a woman, sharp, unimpressed, and fully ready to spill tea. Apparently, George has been busy skipping work and marinating in alcohol. The woman reads Hilda like an open book, and not a flattering one. George sways but points at his wife like he's suddenly the voice of reason. Hilda stiffens, caught in 4K, shrinking faster than wet laundry. She mumbles an apology as George grabs her wrist and drags her off like a grumpy mall cop escorting a shoplifter. The woman stays behind, her tone gentle now. Menri assures her she's okay, emotional wreckage aside. Asha throws her arms around her, overwhelmed but safe. Her thoughts, though, run deeper. The weak always get trampled. And yet, they're the ones with the softest hearts. Menri checks in softly, asking if Asha's all right. Asha nods. She is now. Fast forward to the present. Asha wipes her face, tears long gone, but emotions still swirling. Her thoughts loop back to Lee. All that suffering. All that pain. And now she wonders, did she add to it somehow? But she shakes it off, pep talks herself mid-sniffle, and bolts outside. She finds him under a tree, practically merging with the ground in full sad boy mode. His stare is empty, like he's trying to count blades of grass for answers. She runs up, panting, eyes wide with relief. He looks up, surprised but not hostile. She drops beside him, gently takes his hand like it's made of glass. It's freezing. He's freezing. She shuffles closer, grounding him with soft warmth. Then comes the flood of guilt. He chokes it out, dark thoughts, raw and unfiltered. Says he's poison, a walking disaster, that getting close to him is a one-way ticket to heartbreak. He stares at their joined hands like they don't belong together. But she doesn't let go. Lee's voice is quiet, heavy. He pulls back just slightly, as if distance might protect her. But Asha stays rooted, eyes lit with the kind of warmth that doesn't budge. He tells her to let him go, that it's for her own good. But she doesn't flinch. Instead, her voice softens, digging deep. Family, that's what he is to her. Not just a friend, not someone you toss aside when things get hard. He looks down, not at her, not at anything, just into the space between them like it might swallow him whole. She calls out the lies he keeps telling himself, the ones about being broken, stained, unworthy. She doesn't care who he used to be. The past is done. What matters is now, who he chooses to be. For a second, the old Lee peeks through, small and uncertain. Her words make him hesitate. Her arms wrap around him before he can disappear again. He tries one last time to push her away, saying she'll regret this, that she'll change her mind once she sees the whole truth. But she smiles like it's the easiest thing in the world. To her, he's just Lee. That's enough. Meanwhile, back at Lord Jaden's palace, chaos brews in velvet. A young maid stumbles back, clearly terrified, clutching her sleeves like they're armor. Jaden towers above her, expression unreadable, but not exactly friendly. Her voice wobbles, she pleads, swears she didn't do anything, that it's all a misunderstanding. He tilts his head, amused. Like he's toying with a mouse who thinks it still has a chance. Her voice drops to a whisper, one last attempt at mercy, and he leans in closer, dropping his tone low, daring her to push him away. The moment turns sharp. He steps in too close. She freezes. Time does weird things, but what happens next never gets a chance to cross any lines. Because outside the room, just beyond the doorframe, Lord Benjamin stands, quiet, expression like stone. He saw everything, heard enough, and unlike Jaden, he's not one to let things slide. The maid stares at Jaden, her chest a tangled mess of emotion, but the moment turns. Her stomach twists violently. Before she can even think, she bolts from the room, stumbling into the hall and collapsing into the nearest corner. The sound of retching echoes softly. She grips the wall, breathing hard, face pale. Whatever just happened, it leaves a mark. When she finally wipes her mouth, she laughs bitterly. So much for dignity. Far away from that mess, Asha's back in the kitchen, elbow deep in work and guilt. The pile of dishes has somehow multiplied, and the chef's face looks like he's aged 5 years in her absence. She apologizes, voice tight with regret. Time off wasn't exactly optional, not with Lee nearly coughing up a lung every other hour. The chef squints at her like she just suggested setting the kitchen on fire for fun. He's not buying it. Lee steps in like backup support, nodding with that serious night energy. The two bow like synchronized swimmers trying to win forgiveness. It works. Barely. The chef waves them off like he's already aged 5 more years. Apparently, Mr. Dawson's the real MVP for letting it slide. Asha sighs as she eyes the dish tower. It's tall enough to qualify as a safety hazard. Lee, however, seems weirdly cheerful. Recovering from a near-death experience has clearly done wonders for his mood. She sneaks a glance at him while scrubbing a plate, her thoughts drifting. The way he moves now, steady, bright-eyed, reminds her of something odd. Not a person. A cat. Specifically, this chunky orange mountain cat from her village. Used to look like a walking dust bunny until the neighbors started feeding it like royalty. After that, its fur sparkled like it had a personal stylist. Lee gives off that same glow now, like he got an internal upgrade and nobody told her. She snorts at the image and then immediately regrets it. Lee blinks, she fakes a cough. Back to work. Eventually, the dishes surrender. Asha wipes her forehead dramatically, eyeing the towel pile like it just challenged her to a duel. She's about to pretend it doesn't exist, until the door swings open and a very familiar voice calls out, pulling her straight into the next round of chaos. Tina bursts into the kitchen like a firecracker with no off switch, practically bouncing in place. Asha flinches, halfway through folding a towel, and gives her a look that says, "Please, not today." But Tina's beaming, and when she's got gossip, there's no stopping her. She leans in like she's about to reveal the kingdom's darkest secret. The name Yenna comes up. Apparently, someone with curls, works upstairs, may or may not have ever spoken to Asha. Doesn't matter. The important part? She's pregnant. Asha chokes on absolutely nothing, blinking like she just got slapped with a cold fish. Pregnant? And not just that, the father is none other than Lord Jaden. Yep, the walking headache himself. Tina's eyes sparkle like she's narrating a royal scandal on stage. Asha, meanwhile, is trying to remember how to breathe. The news feels like someone just dropped a pot lid on her foot, repeatedly. The room spins slightly as the details keep coming. Apparently, the whole palace is buzzing. Rumors, whispers, chaos. It's like the drama fairy made a personal appearance. Asha leans against the counter, her stomach folding in on itself. Lord Jaden being at the center of this disaster, not exactly shocking. But Yenna? How did she end up in that mess? Tina lowers her voice, which somehow makes it even more dramatic. The palace staff is being questioned left and right. Leanne and Salil are apparently leading the charge like a pair of angry detectives on a mystery soap opera. Names are flying, eyes are watching. And if anyone so much as looked Lord Jaden's way in the last few months, they're now under investigation. Asha swallows hard, trying to keep her face calm while internally making a list of every conversation she's ever had within 50 feet of that man. Tina mentions Gordon, because of course it's Gordon, being the source. That guy hears a sneeze in the East Wing and starts writing a report. And now the real kicker, no one knows what's happening with Yenna. The girl at the center of it all has vanished into thin air, or possibly just hiding behind a mop bucket. Asha doesn't say much. She just stands there staring at the floor, wondering how close this mess is going to get to her shoes. Tina shrugs with a sly smile, clearly enjoying the chaos. Well, sounds like it's about to blow up. And you know what that means, right? Someone's about to get fired. Probably someone who wasn't even involved, but they'll be caught in the crossfire anyway. Asha forces a smile, trying to hide the knot forming in her stomach. She nods but doesn't say much. She can't afford to show any vulnerability. I don't want to get dragged into this, she thinks, but the idea of being questioned makes her stomach churn. What do I do if they come for me? Before she can calm her racing thoughts, Tina calls after her. You okay? Asha waves her off, needing a second to breathe in the privacy of the bathroom. Leaning against the sink, Asha closes her eyes, trying to quiet the chaos in her mind. The thought of being pulled into an interrogation with Mr. Salil and Miss Leanne is enough to make her feel dizzy. But just as she tries to steady herself, someone knocks softly at the door. Asha? The voice is polite but firm. Mr. Salil would like to see you. Asha's stomach drops. She doesn't need any more reminders of the tension in the air. She nods to herself, takes a deep breath, and heads out. The moment she enters the interview room, the weight of the atmosphere hits her like a wall. Yenna is already sitting there, arms crossed, eyes flashing with defiance as Ms. Leanne stands over her. Asha lingers at the door, not sure if she should step in or wait for the storm to pass. Ms. Leanne speaks first, her voice sharp and controlled. What do you think you're doing, Yenna? You know exactly what this means. Yenna rolls her eyes, clearly done with the whole situation. Oh, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm doing. I'm pregnant, Leanne, and you know who the father is. Asha watches in stunned silence as Yenna's voice rises, the anger practically crackling in the air. What, are you gonna fire me? Is that your big plan? You think you can just toss me out like I don't matter? Try it, and you'll regret it. Ms. Leanne's face hardens. Even noblemen aren't above the law. Don't be ridiculous, Yenna. Yenna scoffs, barely holding herself together. What's the point anymore? What does it matter now? Leanne's gaze sharpens, her words cold. You're the one who broke the contract. You came to me asking for money. Then you made your relationship with Lord Jaden public. Now you expect me to just ignore all of it? You really think Count Lastbitten will support you after this? Yenna clenches her fists, her jaw tight. Of course he will. What choice does he have? The tension hangs thick in the air, and Asha, still standing quietly at the door, wonders just how deep this mess is going to get. Leanne's eyes narrow, the tension palpable in the air. Her words cut through the silence like a knife, her tone heavy with disdain. Yenna's hands tremble with frustration, her anger bubbling just below the surface, but she forces herself to stay composed. Leanne's accusations are sharp, and Yenna's resolve hardens, her fists clenching in anger. Leanne's words continue, cold and calculating. She warns Yenna that this is no simple game, her insinuations carrying weight. The door opens suddenly, and Asha steps into the room, startled. She freezes, her heart racing, caught off guard by the heated atmosphere. Leanne's gaze shifts to Asha instantly, sharp and accusing. Asha's nervousness spikes, her voice shaky as she stumbles through an explanation. Leanne isn't interested, dismissing her with a casual wave of the hand, ordering her to go forward. Asha, feeling her nerves threaten to betray her, steps into the room, doing her best to mask her unease. At the head of the room, Mr. Salil exudes a controlled, icy authority. His piercing gaze sweeps over the room, and his voice rings out with sharp clarity. The moment is tense as he questions Yenna directly, his eyes waiting for an answer. Yenna's response is quick, full of defiance, her challenge clear. But Mr. Salil's reaction is swift. Anger flashes in his eyes, and he leans forward, his voice rising with fury. Yenna's posture remains unyielding, her eyes meeting his with defiance. Asha stands still, unsure whether she's a part of this conversation or merely a spectator to the storm unfolding before her. Mr. Salil's thoughts are harsh as he watches both women. One seems too intimidated to speak, the other too bold, and neither seems to understand the gravity of the situation. Yenna, growing more frustrated, demands to know what Mr. Salil's intentions are. She's done playing games. Without answering, he tosses a piece of paper in their direction. It slides across the table, and Yenna picks it up, scanning the contents. Her eyes widen in shock as she reads the large sum of money offered. Her reaction is immediate, a mix of disbelief and anger. She raises the paper, her voice filled with disbelief, questioning how he thinks such a sum could possibly sway her. After all, she's carrying Lord Jaden's child, the heir to a powerful name. This isn't about money, this is about something far bigger. Mr. Salil, unfazed, leans back, his expression unreadable. He cuts through the tension with a single question, his tone cold and piercing. The room goes still as his words hang in the air. What proof do you have that the child you're carrying is Lord Jaden's? For the first time, Yenna falters. The defiance in her eyes dims, and Asha watches, tension mounting in her chest. What comes next could change everything. The tension in the room is almost unbearable for Asha. Her mind spins, each word from Mr. Salil like a weight on her chest. It's clear now. Nothing matters unless Lord Jaden acknowledges the child. She stands there, her hands trembling, feeling utterly powerless. Yenna's voice cuts through the haze of Asha's thoughts, sharp and biting, but Asha barely hears her. The world seems to collapse inward, and her stomach churns as panic threatens to overtake her. All she wants is to escape, to find somewhere quiet, somewhere far from the chaos. With shaky breaths, she stumbles toward the door, her world tilting with every step. Suddenly, Yenna grabs her arm, pulling her back with a fury that makes Asha's heart skip. The frustration in Yenna's eyes is evident, but Asha is too lost in her own thoughts to process the words. She's overwhelmed, the weight of everything crashing down on her, and it feels as if there's no escape. Asha tries to hold it together, her voice barely a whisper. She doesn't have the energy to argue anymore. But Yenna doesn't stop, her words coming faster, sharper. There's mention of Jaden, of secrets that can't be kept, of how everyone likely knows by now. All Asha can do is stand there, her chest tightening, feeling like she's drowning in a sea of confusion and fear. Compensation. The word echoes in Asha's mind, like a cruel joke. Is that what this is all about? She can't make sense of it, her thoughts too scattered, her heart too heavy. When she finally speaks, her voice cracks under the weight of it all, the sound of her breaking just barely audible. In the kitchen, Tina notices the shift in atmosphere, her concern evident as she looks at the head chef. She tries to explain what happened, but the questions keep coming. Lee enters, his face a mask of worry, and the concern in his eyes is unmistakable. He asks where Asha is, and Tina's expression darkens. She tells him that Asha's left, clearly upset, urging him to go after her. The tension in the kitchen thickens as everyone realizes something's wrong. The moment Tina finishes speaking, Lee's eyes go wide. His heart pounds in his chest as he bolts out the door without another word, his mind racing with worry. What happened to Asha? His feet move faster than his thoughts, the dread in his chest growing heavier with every step. Where could she have gone? He sprints through the manor, his breaths sharp and quick, thoughts tumbling over one another. Could it be, did that man do something to her? Then a faint sound catches his attention, soft sobbing. His heart leaps, an instinct takes over. He follows the sound, his legs moving on their own. Rounding the corner, he sees her. Asha is sitting on the floor, her shoulders trembling with quiet sobs, her face hidden. Lee calls her name, rushing to her side, but she doesn't react. Her body stiffens, and she turns away. He tries again, his voice quieter this time, full of concern. She doesn't respond, trapped in her own grief and confusion. But Lee doesn't back down. He kneels beside her, gently touching her arm. It takes a moment, but Asha finally looks up. Her eyes, red and filled with tears, meet his. In that instant, Lee sees all the pain and fear she's been holding inside. The walls around her begin to crumble, and for the first time, Asha allows herself to be vulnerable in front of him. Lee's heart breaks for her. He won't let her go through this alone. He's determined. Asha, for the first time in what feels like forever, leans on someone. The tears fall freely now, her sobs echoing in the quiet hallway. Lee stays by her side, offering the comfort and safety she's been desperately needing. Asha's body shakes as she cries, her heart heavy with everything crashing down on her. She clutches Lee's sleeve like it's the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Her mind races with fear. She's sure she's going to lose her job, and she can't bear to think about what that would mean for both of them. "What do I do?" she whispers, barely holding herself together. "I'll be fired. And if I leave, where will I go? What will happen to you?" Lee gently takes her hands, trying to calm her down, his voice soft but strong, like a steady anchor. He promises he'll always be there, no matter where she goes. Her tear-streaked face lifts to look at him, filled with doubt. "Lee?" Her voice cracks, but she still asks, her words heavy with worry. "Have you heard the rumors?" Lee stays quiet, his heart aching as he feels the pain in her voice. Her words hang in the air, cutting through him. "I guess you did," she continues, sounding defeated. "Everyone knows. How could you not?" Her frustration and sadness mix into a painful confession. "I don't know what to do anymore. I feel awful, like I'm about to explode. This is all so humiliating. My healing powers are useless. I can't fix your scars or cure my mother. No matter how hard I try, nothing gets better. It's like I can't make a difference." Lee feels his heart break for her, seeing her so vulnerable, but he knows she's stronger than she realizes. He gently guides her to look at him, placing his hands on her shoulders. "That's not true," he says firmly, his voice gentle. "You may think your powers don't matter, but you've done so much. Asha, before I met you, I was broken. I didn't want to live. I had no dreams, no hope. But then you came into my life." He remembers that day, how lost he had been, and how her soft voice had brought him back to life. "Do you remember when we first met? You said, hello? Is anyone there?" he says, a small laugh escaping him at the memory. "The warmth of your touch. That was the moment I wanted to live again." He pauses, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You saved me, Asha. Your mother wouldn't be here without you, and neither would I. You've done more than anyone could ever ask for." Asha listens, her tears slowing, but the pain is still in her eyes. She looks at him, her voice trembling with everything she's carrying. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispers, her words filled with guilt. "Seeing you in pain, it breaks my heart. Please forgive me." Lee pulls her into a tight embrace, his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "I had no idea what you were going through," he says, his voice rough with regret. "I wasn't there when you needed me. I'm sorry." In the kitchen, the rhythmic chopping and sizzling sounds echo as the staff works, each motion practiced and smooth. Lee, however, peels potatoes mechanically, his mind somewhere else. Asha has been granted some time away from the manor, though everyone calls it a vacation. Lee knows the real reason. She's gone home, but how long will it be before she returns? And when she does, what will she be walking back into? He thinks about the promise she asked of him, stay out of trouble, but how is that even possible when everything around him is falling apart? The atmosphere has turned suffocating, yet no one dares speak openly about it. Silence is their only shield. Frustration builds inside Lee, and with one quick motion, the potato slips from his grip. A voice calls out to him, demanding that he get back to work, but he doesn't respond. The head chef, sensing the shift in the air, steps in. With a single nod toward Lee, he signals for the others to let him be. Lee doesn't look back. His thoughts are fixed on one thing. He has to act. He can't sit idly by. As Lee walks through the grand halls of the palace, he senses the familiar, unsettling scent of curtia, subtle yet distinct enough to make his skin crawl. It reminds him of a time he'd rather forget, a time when it was a constant companion during his darkest hours. He nears Lord Jaden's room, and that's when he hears it, the frantic, harsh commands echoing through the walls. The desperation is clear. A servant hurries by, looking more than a little flustered as they attempt to calm Jaden down, but it's clear Jaden isn't listening. He's demanding more, now. The servant doesn't wait around, quickly disappearing out of sight. Lee steps into the doorway, and Jaden's head jerks up, pausing mid-frenzy. There's a brief flicker of confusion before Jaden's eyes narrow in irritation. Lee steps closer, his stance firm. Jaden eyes him with barely contained disdain. The question hangs in the air, but Lee doesn't flinch. His resolve is set. The tension in the room is palpable, thick enough to cut through the air. Lee stands firm, his gaze locked on Jaden, and there's a quiet certainty in the way he moves. He's done waiting, done with the chaos. As he steps forward, Jaden throws a fit, hurling a bottle across the room in a wild burst of rage. The bottle crashes against the wall, glass scattering everywhere. Jaden, frantic, demands to know who Lee thinks he is, but Lee doesn't answer. Instead, he moves closer, each step slow, deliberate, like a predator closing in on its prey. Jaden stumbles back, his eyes narrowing, a flicker of fear creeping up his spine. He's suddenly aware of how dangerous Lee looks, deadly even. His mind races as he calls out for Salil, hoping for someone to come to his aid, but there's only silence. The panic sets in, and with it, Jaden trips, tumbling to the ground. Lee can't help the cold smile that pulls at his lips. Watching Jaden struggle, he mutters to himself, feeling both disgusted and amused. Jaden groans, trying to get up, blaming the drugs for his clumsiness, but his voice cracks with desperation as he screams for help. Lee doesn't flinch. He just watches, his gaze sharp, as a thought creeps into his mind. Jaden looks like someone he used to know, but twisted, broken. Lee raises his foot and brings it down hard on Jaden's leg. The crack that follows is sickening. Jaden's scream fills the room, and his body curls in pain. Lee barely reacts, except for a simple command to keep quiet. Jaden gasps, still reeling from the pain, and tries to say something, but Lee interrupts, his voice cold and unbothered. He doesn't want to hear any excuses. Jaden trembles, his body refusing to cooperate, thoughts spiraling out of control. He tries to move, to run, but his body betrays him. Lee looks down at him with disdain, like he's nothing but a broken shell. He can't help but voice his thoughts. The man is weak. Drugs and alcohol have ruined him. And then there's the fact that he laid his hands on Asha. That's unforgivable. Lee leans in, his voice low, practically a growl. Normally, he wouldn't waste his time on someone like Jaden, but for Asha, he'll make an exception. Just as the room seems to still, a servant rushes to the door, drawn by the noise. The moment they lay eyes on the scene before them, they freeze. The sight is enough to make anyone pause. Lee standing over Jaden, hand gripping his throat like a vice. The servant's voice trembles as they demand to know what's going on, their fear obvious. Before they can say anything else, the door opens further, and Lord Benjamin enters, his voice cutting through the chaos like a sharp knife. The servant bows quickly, almost too quickly. The moment they see Lee, they freeze. And Benjamin's attention shifts to him immediately. Lee doesn't even look at them, his irritation growing. He's had enough interruptions. He turns to them with a look that says it all. Just be quiet. I was about to end him. Benjamin sniffs the air, his expression turning serious as he catches the unmistakable scent of blood. His tone turns grave as he orders the servant to take Jaden away immediately. The servant stammers in response, barely able to form a coherent word, and rushes to obey. Benjamin, however, doesn't let up. He turns to Lee, a frown forming on his face, his voice firmer now. He wants answers. Lee, though, stays silent. The pressure builds. Benjamin repeats the question, and this time there's no room for evasion. Lee smirks, clearly unfazed. He looks at Benjamin as if the whole situation is beneath him. "You really think you can fool me?" he shoots back, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Benjamin raises an eyebrow, taken aback by the response. He's not done, though. Lee stands there, eyes locked on Benjamin, the words he's about to say rolling off his tongue without hesitation. He knows Benjamin doesn't care, and it drives him crazy. Benjamin didn't even blink when he entered the room. No surprise, no outrage, just calm, like he had expected this exact moment. Lee steps closer, his frustration building. He calls Benjamin out on his act with Asha, pointing out how, despite all the pretending, Benjamin's done nothing for her. He can't stand the way Benjamin reacted earlier, how he just stood there, like nothing matters. For a second, Benjamin looks angry, his jaw tightening. He tries to turn the tables on Lee, talking about how Lee's actions could affect Asha. Lee just pauses, the words sinking in for a moment. He looks down, but then mutters to himself about how at least he can face Asha with a clear conscience. He makes it clear that he doesn't care how Benjamin handles the situation. He's done. He walks out, leaving Benjamin in silence, not saying a word to stop him. That night, as Lee lies in bed, the room is quiet, but his mind races. He can't stop thinking about Asha, about how he's the only one who can protect her. Out of nowhere, a voice whispers through the dark, mocking him, calling him noble for avenging his master. Lee's heart stops and his eyes snap open, his senses on high alert. Someone steps out of the shadows, and the voice sounds all too familiar. It's the last person Lee wanted to hear. He narrows his eyes, recognizing the smug tone. This voice, he knows it all too well. "You again," Lee mutters under his breath. The voice teases him as if mocking his resistance. It reminds Lee of the time he had been caught in the illusion before. Lee isn't having it. He's done with these dreams, done with the past. He makes it clear that he won't fall for it again. The voice laughs, bringing up the memory of the last time Lee had been pulled into this false world, the way he'd run straight to Asha afterward. The memory hits Lee hard, and for a moment, he's paralyzed, recalling how Asha had appeared in that dream. She had wrapped her arms around him, warm and familiar. He had believed it was real, had wanted it to be real. But then something had felt off. He'd pulled away, recognizing the truth. The Asha in front of him wasn't really her. It was just a shadow, an illusion. The dream Asha had tried to convince him, but he'd seen through it. Lee can't look at her. He just turns away, trying to escape the weight of her stare. She begs him, asking if she did something wrong, her voice breaking. Her guilt hangs heavy in the air. "Oh, Lee, I'm sorry," she murmurs, but he's not sure if it's the apology he needs. Her words twist something inside him. She promises to do better, to treat him right, and then, without warning, she starts to slide off her dress, the moment feeling wrong in so many ways. Lee freezes, horrified. His mind races, trying to understand what's happening. "What are you doing?" he demands. She smiles faintly, as if it's all so simple. "Let's enjoy this moment, just us." Lee feels a chill run through him. His thoughts are assaulted by a voice, one that always seems to know just how to shake him. "Now, Lee, be honest with yourself." The voice teases, creeping into his mind. Lee shudders, struggling against the spirit's influence, but it's already too late. He looks at Asha, hearing her soft breath, and feels everything inside him turn to fire. "Damn it," he mutters, yanking off his shirt and wrapping it around her to shield her from whatever this is. "You mean too much to me? I'll never let anyone hurt you again." There's a pause, then the voice returns, mocking. "Oh, so it won't be easy this time," it purrs, and Lee flinches, heart racing. Before he can protest, the nightmare shifts again. Darkness churns, and suddenly, Lord Benjamin is there. He's holding Asha close. Too close. Lee's chest tightens, a cold fear flooding him as he watches them. "Asha," he cries, but it's useless. Before he can move, chains slam down around him, trapping him in place. He thrashes against them, helpless, as Benjamin leans in. No, what are you doing to her?" Lee struggles, but his body won't cooperate. The voice in his head sneers, "Oh no, you don't." You need to be taught a lesson. Lee's heart shatters as he watches Asha, unmoving, allowing Benjamin to get closer, his mind reeling. He screams her name again and again, but she doesn't hear him. She doesn't even flinch. The voice taunts him, whispering darkly, "She can't hear you. Ever wonder why she's always in such a good mood after leaving Benjamin's room?" The memory hits him like a punch. He'd asked her about Benjamin once. She'd smiled and said, "Lord Benjamin is good to me." The spirit's voice is smug. "I bet I know why." Lee is frozen in place, his chest tight with pain as Benjamin and Asha get closer. The tears well up in his eyes. He calls her name, but it's too late. She doesn't even look his way. Not a single sign that she even notices his pain. Tears fall from Lee's eyes, his chest tight as the weight of it all crashes over him. The spirit's voice slithers in again, cold and unrelenting, whispering it's poison. "If you care for her so much, but you're too careful, she might slip right through your fingers and fall into the hands of someone like him. Are you really okay with that?" The words tear through him, twisting like a knife. "Asha!" he cries, his voice shaking. The spirit's murmur lingers in his mind, pressing him to think, to question his every choice. "If you want what's best for her, what will you do?" The question hangs heavy as Lee's heart races. He jerks awake, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat, his hands trembling. But the voice doesn't leave him. Think carefully about what comes next. He buries his face in his hands, frustration and confusion battling inside him. "Damn it," he mutters under his breath. Then, suddenly, a memory floods in. Her voice, gentle and soft, whispering his name. "Lee," he blinks, his heart aching as he stares into the darkness. "I need to see her," he murmurs, the longing clear in his voice, "right now." And just like that, everything around him feels like it's building to something bigger. If you're curious about what happens next, drop a comment below and let us know you're ready for part 4. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.